Oh, let me see if there's something on my.
Oh,
I think
music
had
music.
audio.
No mics.
Now they
we
hear.
Now it should be fine.
Seal.
Oh, Rowdy, just Rowdy's audio or all of us? Can you hear all of us?
I think it's fixed.
Let's see.
Okay.
Can you hear everyone?
Yes, no, it works. Yes, no.
Do we want to? Do we want to do it from the top again? Roll the. Did they get the intro music or no?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I'll just roll it. So okay. So hello again, and welcome to episode 246 of the FReality Podcast. It's been a whole month. Yes, indeed, a full fat, no rest month of 0 podcasts. While we took our first ever break with this crew. So good job, crew, for a year and a half of unbroken run. That was great. Thank you for your patience. Well, we dealt with life, and now we're back. It is absolutely crazy how missing a single episode on a fortnightly podcast can leapfrog an entire month. But we did it. So today is catch-up day, and we've got both great and bitter news to get you up to speed in the wonderful world of VR. Here's the laydown. We strike the gong, sending a mournful tone, resounding out to the universe, saying goodbye to Roosterteeth. PSVR 2's virtual link connectivity just got neutered. Meta are arming up in the grand headset war against Apple. Adam sniffed about at GDC looking for VR's best oatmeal raisin cookies. And the Oculus brand is alive and well in exclusive new Netflix show, Three Body Problem. Of course, with a can of compressed whipped cream in hand, Jose is going to give us a swirl of sweet upcoming game releases. Who is FReality, you say? Well. We are a specialist crime scene cleanup crew. Jose is an expert in odor elimination, handling the drama of decomposition. Adam scrubs out those pesky red stains left after domestic violence takes a toll, and Rowdy scouts the area to ensure the coast is clear, whilst dealing with bribing cops or helping grannies across the street as necessary. Zim is our business dev, and most of the time you'll find him down the marina on yachts looking for newly troubled relationships and piles of Demio gold. That brings us over to our highlights. So, seeing as you're on the thumbnail, Adam, you're first up. What you been up to?
I'm only on the thumbnail because I only have pictures of myself. I was behind the scenes. I was telling them, like, man, people are gonna think I'm conceited because I do the thumbnails, and then I'm gonna put me on all of them.
They're gonna know you're no.
Wow. Okay. Anyway, to the actual highlights. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I did in the past 4 weeks. I won't spoil too much about the actual games that were at GDC, but I got the XReal Air 2's, which again I haven't opened yet. So like all of the stuff I got, and I'm like I haven't had time to look at them, so don't ask me about them because I don't know. I mean my own opinions on them. So I got those to be able to play with, but I'll get into kind of GDC related news on that later. And then I also got the Axis trackers. They're kind of they seem similar to the Slime VR trackers, sort of like ecosystem. But again, I literally just opened the box to take a nice picture, and then I haven't been able to try them at all because I had to fly out to GDC right after that.
And so, that's strictly for Steam VR usage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Steam VR, Open VR, Open XR, all the PC ecosystems. So so look for some videos on those soon, hopefully once I get to them after I wake up from travel sleepiness. But something I can say about GDC that I won't mention later on because I'll be more games focused is I did get to play Squid Game again. HTC Vive had an after party at Sandbox VR in San Francisco, which is actually where I got this awesome shirt straight out of straight out of Reality exclusive shirt. So I got to play Squid Game again with Todd, a lot of the Impact Reality crew. Well, I guess Impact / Flat to VR studio crew. So it was with Todd, Natasha, who used to be with 11 Labs and now she's with Impact. Who else was there? Oh, I had Push Dustin, who's actually from the Ruins Magus team. So I guess not all Impact Reality, and then Justin Weeb, who's VR YouTuber as well. So it was fun. Sadly, I was second to last, even though I had more experience than
I
all
was
of
gonna
them.
say you did that with your family, right? Made them
I did that
jump
with some
last or something.
friends,
Oh,
yeah.
friends was it? Yeah.
But there's some of the games where it's not all necessarily skill based. It's just luck on where like I can tell you on one point you're all standing on different platforms, and if you grab a piggy bank, it'll tell you which one of the platforms that is going to fall. So you can either share that information or you can not share that information. But I wasn't fast enough to be able to grab the piggy banks most of the time, so it's kind of like hoping that you are following the right person that maybe knows the platforms that aren't going to fall and standing with them. Although I think I did screw over Natasha, and I kind of feel bad about that. I stood on one that I knew was going to fall, and then last minute I just jumped over to a safe one, so she ended up falling to her death.
Smart.
Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing about that. That's very evil. but it was fun. Yeah, it was nice getting to see everyone there. And like I said, I'll talk about some of the games that I got to try that were pretty interesting a little bit later in the show. But good
Yeah.
times.
How was the show floor like? The thing I remember about GDC from last year is they have like a big carve out area for like really eclectic indie collection games. Like stepping aside from VR completely for a moment, just that kind of stuff I love at various show conventions, but not all conventions have that part. Was that still there this year? Did you spot that on the floor?
They had a game that you sit in a wheelchair and it's like wheelchair powered, like a wheelchair racer. They had another one that was like, again, I don't remember the names for them. They all had clever puns, but you use a waffle iron, and so you're racing with somebody else, opening and closing the waffle iron to be able to, I guess, make the most waffle, like a real actual physical waffle iron. I don't know how, again, the developers hooked it up to be able to work in a game, but stuff like that. So yeah, they had that whole section of just weird peripherals.
I love that.
That sounds bloody noisy, slapping waffle irons open and shut.
It was, but that's why, I mean, they drew a crowd, so I guess it worked for them.
That's
You know,
great.
I don't really know what the point is after GDC. Like, is what like are these?
It's like
gonna
an art
be-
exhibition, isn't it? I mean, they're like, you have an installation and then it's gone afterwards, or
Yeah.
it's a traveling showcase, in some cases.
Yeah.
So,
But
cool.
it was good stuff. It was interesting. They had their resolution was there again. Meta had a pretty big booth, and there was quite a big VR presence. Like there were maybe similar to last year, the same amount of VR developers on the show floor, but also most importantly, there were a lot that were like outside the show floor too. So showing at like WeWorks and WorkWises and hotel lobbies and all that. So it was very good for VR. But I'll get into the specifics later.
I'm looking forward to that. Very good, very good, very good. All right, who wants to go next then? Jose, Rowdy?
Jabber.
Go ahead, Jose.
Oh man. All right.
The man in the storm conditions.
Seriously, yeah. I'm dealing with like a really bad storm, so I kind of been indoors for the last 3 days. Oh man, I missed you guys. It's so true. It's been a month, so I'm like trying to like now calculate. It's just I had some stuff listed I want to talk about, and now it just went blank listening to Adam talk about all the cool GDC stuff. And now it's like my brain got like literally clouded with FOMO. But I didn't go to GDC this year. Unfortunately, I had a growing pains, right? So cost of opportunity becomes a really big factor, and fortunately in the time of industry we're at right now, I'm not a game developer, right? So it's I didn't have any much reason to go except seeing the homies, but AWE is coming up, so I kind of decided to just hold off, but very busy, working like probably never before for VR. So it's been kind of like fulfilling and emotionally wrenching at the same time, kind of like realizing, like, I think it's starting to sink in now. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually taking on behemoths of companies, right? Because I'm starting to feel the pressure. We had a client actually a week ago now who we were talking to, and on the 11th hour they came in and said, hey, by the way, Quest for Business actually came in and are giving us a better deal because they officially know my company and they're putting in. So it's been awesome to kind of like it's my Rocky moment, right? So like I kind of see the situation, what's happening, and getting to building a battle plan and getting competitive. And doing way better than them, that's for sure. So yeah, very focused on that. But on cool technical stuff, I have a new daily driver. I think some
Ooh.
people would care because a lot of people know that I'm a big XR Elite modded user because of the lightweightedness, and it's ironic because I know Rowdy's not a big fan of this headset, so it's the Magic Leap 2.
Oh, that looks
that's
cool.
surprising.
It is by far. Well, I've had it for a while, but to be quite honest with you guys, the reason I don't bring it up so much is because I didn't have any killer software for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So until this week, the amazing team over at Figment XR released a build, version 39 of their Figment XR application, which is a way better version than even that's available on the Quest. From what I understand from Javier's Twitter, who's the lead dev working on Figment, is he was intentionally building this for the Apple Vision Pro. But as we know, the Apple Vision Pro's camera access is completely like borked and blocked, and they don't let developers in. So he went like, F it, I'm going to whoever's going to give me access. And it really has opened up my mind about what's going on in the VR industry after using Figment XR in AR on this headset.
So
running,
pause a second there, because I try to remember what Figment is. I just remember putting a bunch of objects in a mixed reality environment. Are you using it for desktop like productivity, or are you just playing with some toys in an MR space?
That was what originally Figment was, right?
Right.
It was an asset prototyping, I guess, application where you can just bring in virtual assets, but they have gone beyond that. They actually added a web browser. They added the ability to run web XR applications. So they brought in spatial computing, and the beauty of the Magic Leap specifically is the obviously the cost is incredibly prohibitive, but there's a reason for it. They're giving you full on access to the hardware. Right. So there's something really powerful about streaming this locally or through the internet and being able to have room capture, the actual environment being captured in real time with AR. Right. So
so adding web apps like through the browser is huge cornucopia of opportunity, what you can do. The second thing is form factor of this thing. Now, we haven't talked much about Magic Leap 2. So can you tell us about comfort? Because it looks like it might be a very comfortable headset, but are there awkward pieces around the nose? Like, how does it fit on the head? And
so there's no way to actually like unhook the bridge itself.
Okay.
So it kind of like slides in, like, I guess the best way. I have
Goggles
headphones on, so let me.
swim goggles.
It just slides
Yeah.
in. So it kind of trusts your nose bridge to kind of hold it in, or your forehead. So you actually don't feel it at all. It's incredibly light.
Yeah.
Much easier than something like the HTC XR Elite where you got like the weird bridges on it. That's why I had to do the strap. So it's really interesting because a lot of people, when they think about, and that's something that I kind of learned by using all these lightweight headsets, is that there is a lot of expectation that the weight comes from the back or the front of the head, when in reality, I don't think it's either. I think it has a lot to do more with how a headset kind of like stays on the nose. And it's very interesting because I've been talking to a buddy of mine who's an optometrist, and he mentioned that they don't, when you get glasses fitted for your head, they don't pay attention much to the temples. They pay attention a lot more to your nose bridge. Yeah. Right. And it's something that in VR and for XR headsets, we never normally don't get those conversations. I've noticed that a lot of companies kind of try to figure out a way to deal with nose bridges, but it's always like a weird afterthought. Same, like it's always like a weird flimsy.
Yeah.
But,
and that can make or break it. Like, I mean, one of the big gripes with PSVR 2, and I've seen some pretty uncomfortable looking photos, is that the lenses in that rest on the bridge of your nose for some people, and it's very uncomfortable because it's like a hard, I'll call it like glass line or even hard plastic, like pressing the whole bloody time. Yeah. Those look like they look like they were almost a little bit loose on you. Yeah. I think I've got a more what I'll call monstrous nose than you. It might fit me quite well, but does the back looked almost somewhat loose. On the back. Is it snug? Is it snug, or would you call it like a lack of confidence in its hold to your head?
I don't think there's a lack of confidence. It is pretty snug. Okay. They definitely mastered, and also it's wrapped entirely with foam pads all the way around. Yeah,
sure.
So when it comes to the pressure. You don't feel it. There is a head strap also option for it, but it's I mean, it's really hard to explain. It's incredibly light. You don't really deal with all the weird adjustments that we normally deal with other headsets. But yeah, the problem was that there was just no software for it.
And is there, like, I'm trying to remember the ads. Is there a processing like puck that sits at your hip or something off of the Magic Leap 2? There is. Okay, I couldn't see it in the depths of the dungeon there. That's actually pretty heavyweight looking puck. My God,
Yeah.
that thing.
Oh
is
yeah, this
big.
is 100% heavier than the XR Elite by itself. You know what I mean? Like this is. But when you think about it, it's like when you're sitting down in VR and you're using this for spatial work, you're not holding the puck, right? So this can easily be, and that's how I'm kind of using it right now. I'm using my laptop right now for the call, but I actually now this has just replaced my entire laptop when I'm working now, and it's awesome. It's really
do you just sit that on a desk then? Sorry to cut you there. Like, does it just sit on a desk? Or are you clipping it to a belt or like sliding it in a hoodie pocket or something?
I'm actually using this for work. I'm not running around and playing games. So this lays on my desk. There's a USB-C charger there, and there's actually pretty insane ventilation on this thing. So it's incredibly, incredibly loud. I'm trying to like maybe get.
I was gonna ask if it was loud because it looks like it's got some small fans in there.
Dude,
so.
this thing it's a jet engine. It's like a little miniature.
That would piss me the hell off. I am so sensitive to noise. I can't even stand like a 120 mil fan going, let alone a little 30 mil fucking squeaker. All right.
Yeah.
So and I gotta ask you the Apple Vision Pro question. Have you ever stood up from your desk, walked away, and had the thing follow you off the desk? You know, have you ever forgot that it was there and then either had the headset like pull off your face or
I actually haven't, but I have, because I have my computer right next on my desk. I have slid to the right and gotten on my laptop, forgetting that I have the headset on, and I sometimes have stayed on the computer using it and forgetting that I have the headset on because it's a pass-through device. There's no AR. It's all AR, so you won't see much.
Well, the thing I really appreciate about your adventure through different desktop setups is that you'll know the strengths and weaknesses as a cross section across the industry and be able to forecast where we're going with that. Like the working solution that Rowdy and I keep talking about wanting to work in VR, but just not being there yet. And there's one thing I wanted to share with you, I suppose. I don't remember if I've said this on the podcast before, but it was an idea that came to me as I was using a neck-based battery for the Quest 3. And having seen a lot of, particularly ladies, complain about the Apple Vision Pro's battery. They're like, I have a skirt, no pockets. I don't have anywhere to put this, so I'll buy a sling to put it around me like a carrier bag a messenger bag.
Yeah.
But my wife and I are both convinced. We have two of these now, like neck battery banks, horrendously expensive, like $100, right? But that's Canadian. And it just got me thinking, like, why are these companies not considering for the compute and the battery to come off of your head and just rest around your neck? Because it totally disappears during the experience. And I don't know why they haven't done it.
Yeah, I think it's mainstream, and I don't want to like talk too much about that and derail the conversation, but it has a lot to do with use case testing and the unfortunate dictation of the powers that be that are trying to push a narrative for what VR should be instead of actually listening to people like us, people like yourself, who are saying exactly what, hey, this actually would work better. What if we offload the processing? And that's actually the reason why I'm very interested in the Magic Leap 2. And they've probably gotten the closest to what a halfway handshake looks like from local high-end personal computing on a headset without it being incredibly heavy and frictional versus ultralight headsets, which I genuinely think is going to be the future. But in between that, I think it just has a lot to do with
Well, I really hope it's got to be there soon. I know, Adam, you were just flashing the new X-Real? X-Real?
Yes.
It's coming.
Yes.
I think I can add the talk about this is that everybody's thinking about what productivity and business and training actually will realistically be adopted when it comes to XR and spatial, rather versus I don't know what the vision of what movies like Ready Player One try to push on people. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, they nobody wants that, especially when it comes to work. Nobody wants to use their avatars. They just want floating screens, and that somehow sounds so boring that people don't realize it's the most perfect low hanging fruit. So
Yeah. We'll get onto that a little bit later in the show. Jose, thanks a lot. That's a cool highlight. I love hearing your tech exploration. It just inspires me to get tinkery and do stuff like that as well. Right, Rowdy, you're up. What's up?
Yeah, I'm currently in a different environment as some of the live viewers might see. I'm currently exploring Vancouver a little bit. I went to an aquarium yesterday. I love going to aquariums usually. I didn't like the aquarium in Vancouver too much. I found it a little bit, I don't know, it was expensive, but a little bit disappointing. And I wasn't, because I got like all hyped up to go there, because I think it's such a cool place always. You know, you get the sharks, all the fish. They have like, it's from like coming from a science background, it's always been like this kind of like thing. I still studied biology, and I thought it was pretty, I've always had a very large interest in marine life. A lot of my former colleagues actually work now in the marine biotech field. I don't know. I was just a bit disappointed. I mean, it was very, very much more aimed at children than I expected it to be. It was much more like an amusement park almost, rather than like an aquarium, I would say.
Not a celebration. This the science behind it and the
I mean,
animals.
they did try it, but it was like very, very kid friendly. Like very, I mean, not even kid friendly. It was like, it was not adult friendly. It was very much aimed at smaller children, which is cool. I think that's great. It's just that it didn't give me the kind of experience that I was hoping for. It was a bit of a shame, but I mean, I get it. For the rest, Vancouver has been fantastic. They have the cherry blossoms here right now, which is absolutely beautiful.
I love that.
So yeah, it's been great.
I've got a healing salve for you then, Rowdy.
All right.
You need to pull out your Quest 2 when you're back home and load up Ocean Rift, because even on Quest 2, the mixed reality pass-through experience that puts a blue tone around your environment, but then opens up to where you're living into this like aquarium is awesome. Like even with the old school graphics of Ocean Rift, it gave me chills. And I showed my kids and they were like, "Oh my God," you see a plesiosaurus or something like go over what should be the roof or the ceiling of your apartment. And it's like, that's pretty awesome.
I think a lot of virtual reality experience in general that are set in like the ocean. Some of my most popular videos on YouTube have been ones that are set in the ocean, especially when they go back in time and highlight some mosasaurs or something like that. It's always it's an awesome experience, especially because there's so much diversity in the ocean, and it's such an alien world that is so different from like how we have ours. I think it's just an awesome experience in general, and virtual reality is a perfect for that. The Titanic experiences are very cool as well.
You're right, though. It feels like a time capsule, kind of touching ancient times when you see creatures, as close as we can in an aquarium, up close, and you look at it and you look at the way that they're armored and the way that they, skirt or fly their way through the ocean. It's pretty incredible. Like you, I've visited a few Canadian aquariums, and
the Toronto one is amazing. I think
hit or miss. I haven't been to the Toronto one yet, so
they have like a shark tunnel where you like walk through. And you have like the sharks are like over you. It's amazing. I was kind of hoping a similar experience with
I feel so bad for the sharks.
But it's been
seeing all that free food and you can't do nothing to it. They're just swimming. It's like, come on, man.
Oh god.
Have one of those in Las Vegas too, like in Monterey Bay. They have the shark tunnel, and I think even one of the casinos, like there's a slide that goes through like a shark aquarium somehow.
Oh my god. No, thank you.
Las Vegas.
That's not for me. Sliding through shark pit. Oh God.
No, I mean the tube
Um,
is like, it's a plastic it's separate from the aquarium, but it's clear so you could
oh
see,
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No.
I'm still
um,
hung up on just imagining Rowdy
oh,
upset at the aquarium. It's like,
Uh,
I want an aquarium for adults. This does not cater to me.
but I
It's like
felt that there are
adult
definitely
tantrum.
attractions that go overboard, and you're like, wow, I can't enjoy this as an adult. Like, and then there's museums and stuff like, and even art galleries that do it like so very well to cater to both audiences. So it's a balancing act. But nice highlight, Rowdy. I like it. I always like it when you bring us back to kind of some of the nice tastes of what's available out there in real life and what we get up to when we've got a month away from all of you. So, to those of you in the audience today, thanks for being here for the live show. I do love myself a good stream, and a stream podcast. Well, aren't these just some of the finest human interactions we have today? So before we hop on pop with the news, here's my highlights of the last month. I've got one I'm going to say now and one when we're talking to some news on PSVR 2 a little bit later. So first one was my eldest daughter, Jade. She turned 10, and that was a big thing for us, making the double digits and all that. And it's a perfect segue with Rowdy's, hating kids thing. So the thing that was so exciting from a VR perspective is she crossed the boundary, right? Can now create a meta account, and means she can have a dedicated account by herself. So we went through that setup. We've never done this before, so it was new to me, but I thought I'd just carry some of the feedback from what that was like, both for the audience, for their interests, if they've got, young kids about to hit that age, and also explain the difference between their previous 13-year barrier and 10-year, because it's not the same. I thought it was kind of all coupled together, but no, when you're 10, 11, and 12, you're treated differently to when you're 13 and up. And that's probably due to some laws somewhere. But in short, you can create a standalone account, but that account has to have a monitoring parent account kind of latched over the top of it. So every single, purchase or even free download that my daughter makes has to come to me for pre-approval, which is a pain in the ass if you want to just let them have a run of it by themselves. But that's a requirement from Metaside and the current construct. I did not find a way to kind of unlatch that. And then the other side is, from a friends and messaging side, obviously protecting young kids, this is probably a smart thing. They don't allow them to have friends. They can't accept friend invites, that type of thing. You can join a multiplayer session, but you can't have,
Keep
all your
them.
friends. You can't.
Smart.
Yeah. So for the next 3 years, she's just gonna have to put up with that unless they end up changing the rules or something. But long story short, she got her account and then immediately was like, "Dad, I want you to come and play Gorilla Tag with me." And I was like, "Honey,
Oh.
it's leg day or arm day or whatever, we're going. Let's do it." So she dragged me into Gorilla Tag, which I thought okay, they've probably been layering cosmetics. I didn't know that they had brought in new game mechanics, new levels. So diving in immediately brought me back to when I had arranged something where we had a bunch of VR creators together to kind of play tag. So no kids, right? It was just all adults in Gorilla Tag. And that was great fun. I'm going to have to do it again now this year. But kind of harkening back to Adam's last update about the Hawaiian trip, they've got zip lines. There's a beach level with these crazy zip lines, which you grab onto with your monkey arm, and it just flies you down the level. And if you go past the zip lines point of gravity, you will slide back along the line. And so this just added a new dynamic that was super fun. And then there was an ice level as well. And the ice level had literally ski ramps. And so you just throw your arms in the air, ski down you're, I don't know, BB-8 or that little android from the Star Wars thing, and just fly off of these ramps. So it was super good fun to be able to do that. And I thought I would the thing that struck me the most about that wasn't the new content and all of that, and the fact that that place is just it's a playground for kids basically, but 500,000 online users. It's crazy. I might be getting that wrong. That's got to be 50,000. Can't be 500,000.
Yeah, there's a reason why
Can't be.
at Live we've been kind of experimenting with Gorilla Tag a lot and Gen Z because it's huge. It's insane. The amount of,
Huge.
yeah.
Absolutely. I was because I remember, and we called it on the podcast ages ago, right? Maybe the first week it was out. I was like, this is my game of the year and I remember Mike and Nathan laughing their asses off at me, right? Then they got into it and they saw the promise of it. But I remember being in there with like 12 concurrent users, and now it is absolutely this enormous centerpiece to VR. And because it's free to download and play, and you can get, accrue your shiny rocks and go back in the headset, like it's very attractive to that younger audience. And who is that younger audience 5 or 10 years from now? There are mainstream VR users. So
and
like
it's happening. I wanted to and I'm
mad.
sorry for cutting you off, but I wanted to mention this. J-Man Curly at JMANCURLY, huge content creator that Gorilla Tag took him to the next level. Like he has a fan base of a hardcore Gorilla Tag gamers, and it's allowed him to leverage that platform, and he's now doing music, and he's out. He started from that Gorilla Tag audience, so it goes to show the future of what this space looks like is exactly what you said. It's a centerpiece. I love that you called it that. Yeah.
Well, and the thing to me is this, right? Like I've been talking to friends, and Adam, you're the perfect person to kind of respond to this thought. But it's like the thought occurred to me. It's like what we need is we still in VR. We don't need Asgard's Wrath 2. We don't need that like depth of content in many different titles. It's okay if we have a couple like blockbusters like that. That makes sense. But I really still believe that VR needs, it's still at the like appetizer stage. Like we need the fun little game mechanic that just hooks you, pulls you in, and is just joyful. And what they managed to do with Gorilla Tag, which I really wanted to applaud here, again, liking a whole cross section of games, is that they took what was fun in Gorilla Tag, this kind of fecked up, arm locomotion mechanism that's easy to learn, kind of complex to master, and they've extended that while staying true to the original design, and it's still feckin' fun. Like I do want to go back. I want to arrange a multiplayer session and do this now. And hats off to them. I mean, it's the same thing that Beat Saber had magic, years ago. And I just love that about VR. And I think that's where, if I had to answer the question of what does VR need, I honestly think we just need more indies to hit that gold vein with that little mechanic, like Pistol Whip, for example, and to bring that to us, So that's my opinion. But
awesome.
You're an Asgard's Wrath fan. Are you still playing that? Because I've sampled a bunch of my friends, and they've all dropped the game at this point. But like, you still into it? You still doing
I haven't
runs?
it's one of those where I want to go back in still, but I'm just like tired all the time. Like at the end of the day, I just want to play a flat game and sit down somewhere, and because I've been doing a lot of Helldivers actually, but not in VR. I haven't tried like I don't know. I just want to sit down, have my nice keyboard here, not swing my arms around crazily. But I do like Asgard's Wrath. They have all of their not seasonal things, but like they have different chapters that like start at one point and end the factions kind of a thing. And I want to go back in there so I can unlock some of the cosmetics or whatever they might have that are unique to that time period. And then of course go back to where I was with the rifts and stuff. I was really good at that, but it's almost intimidating now to get back into it and try to remember where I was.
Honestly, like it's funny that you say that because the reason I hadn't touched Gorilla Tag is because of the physical exertion required in that game, right? Just like you kind of feel like it's medicine. You're like, I don't want to take medicine right now. I want to have candy. And then Asgard's is like so big. It's similar. It's like my No Man's Sky or GTA 5 or whatever. It's like I want to go back to it, and then it's just there's other things that that grab you instead, right? And so I'm curious what chat think about that. Like for people who were playing Asgard's, are you going back to it? What's your plan with it? That's a long bloody game, and I feel sad for the artists that the majority of people are going to try like the first 10%, like a couple hours deep, and then probably just gets jump off to other things. But meanwhile, we have this canyon of a game to explore, so yeah, interesting kind of comparison between a game you might play for 5 minutes versus one that you could play for 100 hours. But that's where we are in VR. So yeah, that was my highlight. The parental setup for my daughter, getting her into VR, her first account, and just to kind of tip my hat to Gorilla Tag. And thank you, Adam, for making me jealous of zip lines. Now I can at least get a little bit of that thrill in Gorilla Tag. With that, let's switch over to our newsreel and get the show started. Kicking us off, let's begin with what's rad, what's sad, and bloody weird out there in the world today. Starting off with a strong right hook, here's an awesome paper project from a fan of the game Underdogs, which already has amassed a cult following and some great review scores. The game revolves around combative mechs in a bleakly painted future. Your starting mech takes after a gorilla. So here is Paperilla by Twitter user Igor Brennan. I just saw this and I was like, dude, man, you nailed it. It looks so cool, this little guy. I want him sitting at my desk. And apparently he's going to make it available for the public. So that looks like a papercraft that I will fall into. There you go. There's the first one. Hats off to Igor for making an awesome little dude. I do think the VR fans are just so awesome. Like whether it's cosplaying key characters or whatever. I mean, our industry is still pretty small. So where people really double down and, show the devs they love their stuff. I love it. It's great. Keep doing that. Up next, it's just a bit of really sad news that I wanted to cover. For me personally, it's a big deal. After over 20 years in operation, Roosterteeth is being shut down. After a rolling series of acquisitions between companies, new parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery, has decided to shutter the doors on what is now an unprofitable division of their company. Roosterteeth started off with their famous Red vs. Blue Machinima series, had an amazing sideshow lineup, things like the Roosterteeth podcast, which personally, I spent about 5 years digesting 400 episodes of that. Loved the team. Loved them. Gus and Bernie and all of them, Gavin Free. And that's how I actually ended up knowing that I wanted to get into this space myself. And we only recently said goodbye to Tested and now Roosterteeth. And that means a lot of the OG podcasts that I personally loved have ended. So this just finishes us with a message of, enjoy those podcasts while you got them, because you don't know how long they're going to run. But were any of you Roosterteeth fans? I'm curious. Yeah.
Big
I watched
fan.
a lot of Red versus Blue, and then my husband listened to their podcast, so I'd have it in the background.
Yeah, their achievement. I think was it Achievement Hunters. I think that was
Achievement Hunter.
Oh, dude, their GTA 4 crew games. Those were still are one of my favorite. I go back to them once in a while. Ruby. I didn't get into it, but I know that was actually when I remember when it came out. I was actually living in Puerto Rico, and that was actually one of the few little things back then that kind of like were so large and impactful that kind of like spread over to the island like wildfire. It was that and Gangnam Style. I remember when I think back to like that 2010s era. But yeah, I'm gonna miss it.
What was the
did make
reason
me
for
really
them
sad.
calling it quits? Maybe
Wasn't profitable. I mean, they have a large production, large warehouses, lots of equipment and teams. They're running basically a TV studio, right? And so much in the way of media, but they weren't profitable. So just like
Didn't they get into conventions too, like hosting?
They were running RTX. Yeah, they ran RTX in I think Austin for. They must have been doing that 10 years now. So they were huge. They were really, really big. But the problem is, this ball started rolling when they sold off. They sold off what was a previously privately held company back in I think it was 2014, and now they've had a series of acquisitions of parent company rolling all the way up to Warner, and we know what Warner's doing. They've been shutting down a bunch of stuff lately. So unfortunately, they're the next victim. Now, I do hear that the Roosterteeth podcast will continue. They don't have their original cast, of course. Now they're on like cast 8 or something. So quite a lot of change of hands there. But one that I used to absolutely adore, loved it to bits, and I hope that the employees of Roosterteeth, find good spaces for them to create, going forward. They were funny and they were family. Sometimes, podcast group becomes your family. Absolutely. You get to know the people back and forth. You get to know what's going to piss them off, what they like in the morning, when they've had a rough week. You see it in their faces, So that was hard news to take. But that's that. Let's dry those tears up. But keep your tissues handy as the next product.
No.
It's like that, Adam. Jesus. The next game product is GameSense. This was announced on Twitter. I saw it from Jeff Keighley of the Game Awards. It's a box that allows for smells of gunfire, explosions, storms. Jose, we got you covered. Forests and racing, as if racing has a scent. For $150 to $180, I think 180 is the price tag, but it's discounted on Amazon to $150. You can get a box that fires off scents while you game. The main complaints have been cumbersome setup. The user interface of the software is poor, and off-smelling scents, like the explosions smelling like tea tree oil. Anyway, you had to hear, this one from us. Some people are also feeling a bit nauseated based on the sense that it produces. But remember, we had that modular interface for, I think it was Oculus Go and Quest.
The Nautilus Rift.
Many of these, like
Not
why?
even the Nautilus. It was after that, but it was killed by, I don't know, the FCC or someone said you can't do it because it was right up on the face. This is like an odor product that sits in your room, and I'm thinking that someone in VR is going to dabble on this. But like what Rowdy's saying, the Nautilus Rift, for those who don't know, at the Fractured But Whole Cartman South Park thing, they had this device that would strap around your nose. I did get first hands on with that back in 2016, I think it was, called the Nautilus Rift. And it was so you could smell Cartman every time on screen. When he was farting off, you'd smell it. And at the time, I still had the mustache, and it went into my beard, and it made me nauseous, and I wanted to throw up. It was... let me just say, I'm happy to say no thank you to this. This is a product I'm going to take a pass on.
But also, how does napalm smell like? Is it just a smell of like burning dead bodies? Like what? Like
focus testing.
What is
it
this?
Smells like managed democracy. That's what
human
it smells.
exertion. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Human
Wet,
exertion.
like an oniony smell, right?
Also, like, I mean, I think we did a science episode one time on the complexity of smells. Like, there's so many, like far more than we, for example, see colors. Like, and we already see so many colors. Like, in terms of smells, you have so many more combinations. There's a reason why you can literally go to university to study perfumes, right? Because of the ways that these like specific things interact with each other. And I just love it that they bomb it down to like, oh, we have gunfire, explosions, racing, storm, and forest, because those are the main smells that you have. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, and of course, like, what triggers me immediately is the thing, like, AI automatically releases scents. Like, what AI? Like, what is it doing?
Scent AI, bro.
It's
I wanted to
feels a bit like we're gonna use VR and artificial intelligence and create a lot of buzzwords.
Yeah,
create this.
Dude, I can't wait till I see on my eggs like organic was there, but now it's gonna be AI organic, free range eggs.
Grass-fed
Yeah.
AI.
I don't know.
I wanted to mention shout out to wow, I had their name on my mind. Peter Sassman. Haptic Solution. Haptic Soul. Oh. Yeah. They've been working on similar tech for quite a while. It does break my heart a little bit, that these guys beat them to market, but having conversations, and you did mention that there's like a lot of weird frictions with this product. Those are the things that Peter and I have spoken at length about, right? And there's also a reality, and Rowdy kind of hinted on that, is think about pressure points in the body. Some people have different pressure points based on how the nervous system works. There's also chemical, I guess, ways that you can compound different smells that you can actually trigger a reaction that most people didn't even know. It could be an allergy. It could be, something that disorientates the way that you function, right? There's neuro issues that people have. And so all of these technologies, to be quite honest and not be a bummer about it, is just, they're not feasible. Yeah, they're not easy to applicate.
Like, what is the use case for these? Are they meant to be for just normal people to buy at home to smell stuff, or is it more
game
arcades?
enhancer? Yeah. It's a game enhancer for a consumer.
I get it.
I don't know if like Jose, it's going to trigger a sleeper agent in somebody at some point. But...
Yeah, dude, you can make like a neurotoxin by accident, like combining all these. Right, like for example, that's one thing that I learned. Unfortunately, the hard way is that, like, for example, eucalyptus causes a very negative reaction on cats, right? So, and that's when you have like scented oils. Like, that's actually a really
how exactly did you come across this knowledge, Jose? What were you
I own a cat, and it was acting weird, and I took it to the vet, and they asked me what was going on. I was like, oh, nothing. Like, I was cleaning the house, and they were like, oh, do you use any scents? And they did a blood check, and yeah, it was clogging up the nostrils, and that's what happens. Is like
an allergic reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, it's not really, and that's, if I remember correctly, it's not how you smell. It's like the particles that hit your tongue or something like that. Like how you actually know things. So you are technically ingesting some kind of chemical or vapor that is.
Well, I mean, scents in general, like, those artificial scents are usually not the healthiest, even though they smell nice, right?
Yeah.
Especially those things that spray something in the air, like, like those air fresh,
Febreze.
yeah, Febreze and like those kind of things.
Oh no.
They're typically not too good for you. Like if
Not
you have
good for you,
natural
not good for
scents-
the ozone. Just,
Yeah.
just poking holes in the atmosphere. So
Forgot about those on.
Yeah.
yeah, sounds
I
good.
don't
Well,
know.
anyway,
There's-
that go on,
It's a
Adam.
neat idea.
Oh,
though.
there's just so many of these things. I
Yeah,
don't understand
I
why
know.
so many companies are. Maybe I can see one that's like interesting science experiment. Let's see if we can do. But why are so many companies trying this? I don't understand the market for it really.
Yeah.
Well,
The things for me that, like, I love weird stuff like this, and I would definitely go for an accessory if it wasn't a huge box. Where the fuck am I putting it? 2, cartridge based. I'm gonna have to buy, like, buying for a printer. I'm gonna have to buy scent
Refills.
cartridges at different times. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. 3, the AI or whatever software is controlling what it sees on screen, and it goes, "Oh, I saw green, so here, have some forest," at the wrong moment. Like, the problem is, just like with trying to unlock a phone with your face, if it doesn't work like 1 in 20 times, like if it's working maybe 95, 98% of the time, fair enough. If it doesn't hit that mark, you're going to hate it, because delivering the wrong scent at the wrong time is just like, it's going to be in your face, well, in your nostrils, but you're going to know. So that's the thing that holds me back from this kind of thing. I was really interested in the scent cartridges for, I don't know, the VR headsets a little while ago. But then again, this kind of stuff, like, you got to put some lab rats through it. Like, I'm talking, find
Can I ask
Cletus
you
and
guys?
give him this for 5 years before I'm willing to put it on my head.
Can I ask you guys one question?
but
What's that?
So if you can bring in an accurate, exact smell, like parody
Oh,
1-to-1, well, you can only pick one smell to bring into VR, and that smell is going to be a reactionary smell to anything. So if it's fire, it'll be this smell. If it's just a haptic smell, what smell
Rain.
would you want it to be?
I would bring
That's
rain.
a good one.
I would
that's
bring rain.
good. I was gonna say ocean,
Yeah.
Like I
like the
really
salty
like the
sea
smell.
air.
Of,
Yeah.
that'd be
The
a
old
good
Captain,
one.
you sea dog, you.
I like that.
I
Man,
was
see,
gonna
now I
say,
don't. Yeah, go ahead.
like coffee, but when would you have coffee in a game? Like it's like Job Simulator. I just really
Well,
love
no,
the
like
smell
if,
of coffee.
like
I don't
for example,
like the
you know what that
taste,
would
but-
work really well? Like, for example, if you have like BioShock, BioShock Infinite, and you have, in the beginning of the game when you're going through, you have the festivals and the fairs, you see the little houses. They probably have some coffee shops around there as well. You then have the smell of coffee in the streets as you walk through BioShock Infinite in the beginning. Yeah, that's a good idea.
When you first said it, Adam, I thought you said coffins.
Coffees.
I want to smell
Specifically
decomposing.
dead bodies.
I
I
like
wouldn't
that.
put it past you. I wouldn't put your weird things. You're into weird things. What about you, Jose? What's your
Oh no,
smell
I'm
of choice?
I'm not answering mine because I'm
Oh.
gonna come across as a fat boy. So I'm just gonna go.
Wait,
gonna say
what were you?
chocolate chip
No,
cookies.
come on.
Freaking A.
yeah.
Hell
I was
yeah.
gonna say like chocolate
Hell
chip
yeah.
cookies. Oh, you guys
Yeah.
were really like nature stuff. And I'm like, damn it, now I gotta be the
Why
fat
just
one. here.
coffee? You could do coffee and chocolate chip cookies. It's a
Yeah.
perfect
There we
combination.
go. I like that. One that I wanted to bring up though that I
Oh,
really
God.
like, that sounds like a great idea. Onikaze on the chat said new car smell, and that's actually
Ooh.
a spray, right?
Ooh.
So I actually was watching a video of Jim Cramer, the
damn.
CNBC money guy,
Yeah.
trying the Apple Vision Pro, and he was like blown away by Nvidia's like car digital twin technology, and
Yep.
that would be pretty cool if you can like just spray it in the air while you're looking at brand new cars.
Dude, I like that could possibly enhance, like, the smell of the leather off the seats in a GT7 car. I mean, that really feels cool. Now, one thing that no one will vote for, right? And I see chat coming up with loads of ideas now. No one's going to vote for the smell of a funky, like, new headset, like the original Vive. Like, no one wants
Hey,
that smell. Forget
I
that.
was gonna say, like, maybe I'm a weirdo too, but I love the smell of like fresh printer paper or like that
Nice.
like cardboardy, plasticky, like like magazine, like
Yeah.
paper
Yeah,
smells.
paper
I love
smell.
new paper smells. Like, yeah. So
So-
I'm kind of on
So
team
which
you
one
if
of the
you're being a
5?
weirdo.
Which one of the 5 scents describes paper smell? Gunfire, explosion, racing, storm, or forest?
Forest?
Explosions.
Free paper?
I think explosion's the closest because you, depending on the periodical,
burns?
like if you pick up a magazine, sometimes it smells a little bit burnt, because of the production process. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking. But there's also DLC. This thing has DLC, so you can get extra cents or whatever. That's always the case with these things. So I don't remember what those were, but
it is napalm, human exertion, ocean, and then of course, let's not forget about that one, golf course.
Wait, human
Smell
what
of
did you say
golf
that?
course.
Human exertion.
Human exertion.
Oh, exertion.
What?
Sweat excretion.
yeah.
I was like, whoa, wait.
whoa,
What kind
whoa.
of games are you playing?
Resident
that
Evil took a
is-
different turn there. Yeah.
That is GameSense. Yeah, like the smell of blood candle. That was great. If for those who didn't know, GTA,
Resident
RE7. Yeah, there was a candle that you could buy with that one. All right. Well, speaking of taking a pass on new tech, let's move on to the next one. Here's a weird as hell mobility product from Honda. It's a chair with wheels and some of the worst VR demos used to showcase a product yet. They call this masterpiece of engineering the Honda XR Mobility Experience, leveraging the pre-existing Honda Uni 1, that's what they call it. Hopefully you're not using this in university, which is a hands-free device. Looks like a seat, like a cinema seat or something like that, that users can steer with their center of gravity. So you shift your body weight around, and this thing will turn left or turn right as you're going, and you're wearing a headset while you're doing it. But again, the demos that they showcase in the video do not look well developed.
This just
I will say.
reminds
So
me
I don't know
of
what
that-
this is for.
Everyone has seen Wall-E, right? With all the
Yep.
people sitting in those little things and they're like moving around. That's this, right?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
The future is bright then.
Yeah. See, when I see stuff like this, I always immediately think like, why VR? Like, I love VR. I mean, we're in a VR podcast, but it kind of bums me out when you see technology that shouldn't be adopted to VR get adopted to VR. Because when I saw that, I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is next generation wheelchairs. They, instead of having a headset, give somebody who can't walk a cool cap or whatever trackers you're using for this. Get rid of the VR. Like, I love VR, but
yeah.
This
feels like, remember we did the water slides with VR? Like why? Why? And unfortunately, I have to go through one of these things. I know, Adam, you've done a bunch of these things where you jump, off of, like free flying as a flying squirrel, but you're in VR, all that kind of stuff. But like my parents bought me one of those, what are they called? Like the air tube things where you fly in the tube, but with the VR add-on. And I'm like, I feel like I'm going to hate that part. Like I'll love the actual flight suit thing, but you throw a VR headset on, especially like a 3DOF headset, while you're, like your senses say, be in control of this moment. And you throw on a 3DOF headset and you're like, I don't have a fucking clue what's going on.
Yeah. You have to really trust the people that are working there to not fuck you over.
Especially when it's Charlie Chocolate Factory where there's a fucking spinning blade at the top of the place. And you're like, don't let me go up there, all right? So anyway, I'll report back once I've done that. But fucking weird. This thing is strange. So, all right, with that, let's steer you back towards a positive one. I saw we post on Reddit that I just thought would make Jose, do his yo thing. And it's from a Redditor who goes by, very fittingly, throw the garbage away. And by garbage, he means monitors. So very much like your intro there, Jose, right? This guy's got a setup with a keyboard, a Quest 3, an iPad, an iMac, or a MacBook, and a desk in front of him. So he speaks of using the setup in several different ways for games, Quest, and Moonlight. Now, Moonlight I didn't know about, but it's like a free version of virtual desktop, very, very low latency, and that's why he prefers that to VD. And Immersed for work, connecting both to PC and Mac, and works on the go this way. So this just reminded me of you, Jose, and I thought I'd show it because we're seeing more of this show up on Reddit with people throwing away their monitors and going for VR-centered setups.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's so inspiring. It's so inspiring, and it goes to show, and I love the little computer on the corner.
Yeah,
right?
it's a
'Cause that's
desktop
actually
still,
something
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a desktop, and it goes, and that's something a little bit of a rant that I was going on actually on Twitter like a few days ago, because it goes to show how we are kind of we're course correcting at a very high level when it comes to computers, and we're going to go back to the mindset that large scale enterprise companies look at computers and how they're adopted, right? Companies, when you have, like, let's say 500 plus employees, it's very expensive to buy 500 computers, 500 monitors. So one of the best cost effective ways is by buying renting really high end servers that have that can essentially be multiple computers in one, and you terminal or remote into these computers. We call that, virtual machines or virtual desktops, and we've seen that, as you mentioned, Moonlight, ALVR, all these really cool streaming solutions, kind of pushing the narrative and showcasing what is going to happen. I really think that this is going to be the eventual, at the beginnings of the transition of the personal computer, or PC meaning personal cloud. Like, I still think the people will still buy computers. It's just where the desktop kind of was designed to have a monitor, keyboard, and all that stuff. It's going to look a lot closer to what you see in this picture, where it's designed to be put away in a closet. I can see companies now maybe building family home servers for people that don't trust, clouds or all that stuff.
Yeah, I think actually getting rid of desktop, CPU, GPU, all of that stuff is going to enter cloud. I mean, we still need to deal with latency, of course, but nowadays, that problem has been, I want to say, solved, especially enough for, like,
I'd say
games that are requiring very low latency. But for example, like Age of Empires, like a very good game where you don't need a very low latency. You can easily do that already on a cloud computer. Of course, cloud computing is still expensive, considering what, like, the amount of hours that you would likely, because you're getting billed by the second, billed by the minute. In terms of cost effectiveness, we're not really there yet, but it's definitely a future that is coming.
Yeah.
But then you have a nozzle, and you can control that nozzle in terms of how much cost you're willing to take on based on your active work footprint. Because when you're logged in, you don't have to be paying for server time.
But a lot of people, of course, they buy a GPU and they spend 5 years with that same. So the cost of that GPU is offset over a time period of 5 years. If you have,
for an individual, but like
but if you want to have the latest access to the latest GPU, which you don't really need for gaming, you need it for other types of applications like artificial intelligence, machine learning, large
video
algorithms, production. Then that cost can be easily offset, because then you don't need to purchase every year. For gaming, I don't feel like we're really there yet, because you can buy a much cheaper GPU and you are set for 3, 4, 5 years.
But this is where I see a real gap in the marketplace right now. And I think I'll bet my bottom that Meta sees the same thing in particular, maybe some other companies as well, is that, like, this idea of having a VR headset for work. They've been marketing VR headsets primarily at gamers. There are a few headsets that are a bit business chic, but like the difference between having a desktop with a flashing keyboard and a case that's all snazzy versus what you see in business, just a simple black case or something just like that looks the part. We don't have that headset today. I would almost argue to say that maybe Oculus Go was the closest thing that was just very simple, flat, gray, small, easy to kind of give to an employee and say, go take a training course in this. So we don't have that in like modern VR to be capable also for work. I know some teams like the Immersed Visor, for example, are aiming at that sector, but I think the heavy hitters need to also aim at that sector. And I would include Apple in that statement.
I would push against that. I think the powers that be are trying to get involved in that conversation. And to be quite frank, they're not needed, and they shouldn't be in that conversation. When you look at computers, and how they became or came to be, a lot of people forget that the computing industry was actually dominated by a huge monopoly called IBM. And they were dictating how computers were built, how CPUs what compatibilities, the software layers. Microsoft was working with IBM because they were the big dog to be, while secretly working on Microsoft Windows, right? So The reason I'm bringing that up is it took 9 companies. I believe they were called, they're referred to as the Gang of Nine. And then during the 80s, I think it was 1982, these Gang of Nines led by Compaq. It was Compaq, Gateway, Dell. Think of all the big dogs that make computers today. They united, and the reason they did that was because IBM came in and said, hey, that we have so many clones that people are copying the way we do technology and our vision of computers. Next revision that we're making, we're blocking everybody out. We're taking the industry back and the market share back. And these 9 companies went like, excuse me? No. So they united and they built the open architecture industry, which is what we know today as the PC industry. Right? And that's kind of what's happening with VR right now is that the giant companies that are building VR have realized that the technology to seeing or amplifying what you see and how you interact with those digital measures are completely separate. And the whole entire time that we're trying to embed them at all costs, because if you can embed the way you interact with virtual technology, you get to control those APIs. But if you get to also control what you see, you get the whole pie. But what the industry is pushing for is what we're talking about is I just want the ability to have 5 really nice immersive monitors. I just want to use my computer. I just want to use my desktop. I don't care about anything else. And these companies know that there's no value or money in that space because at that point you're just a monitor company, right? And that's what's happening. You're going to see a decoupling by force. I'm going to see. I'm expecting maybe a company like Razer or Vizio or LG that has been teasing around. Is I see them realizing, wait a minute, the way you interact with VR doesn't necessarily have to be a part of the VR experience. And that's going to open up a new market where you're going to see controllers like the Quest Pro controller that has multiple machine cameras, which means it could technically work as a VR controller for anything. Why is it not working with everything? Because they're being blocked out of access. And I think that what we need now is a Gang of 9 to show up.
Another Gang of 9.
Unfortunately, there's no
Gang of 9 yet. There's only 4 of us. We need 5 more people.
Right?
So
you get those
and
recruitment
they all want
posts up.
to own the pie. And that's the worst part, is that there has to be a IBM to kind of rise. And a lot of people think it's Apple, but I think it's going to be Meta. I think Meta's going to get so large and so dominant that they're going to pull a IBM move, and hopefully HTC, Magic Leap, and all these guys hopefully they're ready.
It's so funny to see how industries like this just move in waves. Like it's the same shit, different day, right? Like, and it keeps happening in computing and business. Great insights there, Jose. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. Now, look, I'm going to turn us away from crazy, silly chairs and smelly things to a bit of fun. And it's funny because we've been away a month apart, so we haven't had a chance to share. Adam already hooked me with one line earlier, and so we're going to go down the route of Helldivers 2 for a minute. So, feck me, this game, right out the gates of 2024, I say this, all of my old buddies who used to play Left 4 Dead and Battlefield are back to play Helldivers 2. And I saw this, you know when you see your Steam friends list and everyone's playing one game, and I'm like, God damn it, now is not the time for flat game Zim. And I look at this thing and I play it, and my God, within half an hour, I was like, feck, this is great. It's a squad-based game without roles per se, but the camaraderie and this kind of simulation of going up against either bugs or a Terminator-like faction of robots, and there's a third faction coming, is just stellar. The graphical fidelity is incredible. If you are a fan, like I was back in the Quake 3 arena days of volumetric fog, well, there's a new papa in town because this thing has smoke and goo and meteor showers. Feck, it's insane how good it looks. Now, I wasn't able to get this working in Reshade yet, injector-wise, to play it like in proper VR. But how I've been playing it, because I'm a lucky duck, I had a virtual link cable running from my PC, my 2080 Super, which has a virtual link port, which just looks like USB-C, but it's not just USB-C. And previously, when you'd plug in a PSVR 2 headset, the little power on light would come on. And you're like, wow, this is great. Because that doesn't happen with normal USB. And you can turn it on. You get cinema mode. And I get a gorgeous, what feels like 120-inch, old dark, deep dark OLED panel with beautiful 265 nit brightness. And plus this game, fuck, I was having a great time. Absolutely phenomenal time sitting here on my desktop for about 2 weeks until, and this is where Zim tripped across a very interesting VR discovery, because last podcast we were talking about Sony and PSVR 2 and the little kind of mention we got in the Sony blog that said they're considering getting the ability for PSVR 2 to play through with PC games. And we were saying, is it streaming? Will it be Steam Link? Will it be a direct with a dongle? Like, how's it going to work? But while I was playing one of the nights, it just didn't work anymore. There was a firmware update. And they said they were updating the controllers, but the headset stopped working with my PC. And instead, in the headset, I get a picture which shows a little dude taking off his PSVR 2 and looking at the monitor. So they're like, look at the monitor for additional instructions. But guess what? There's no instructions yet. So I viewed this as they're laying the framework for whatever is coming in that space. And then maybe a couple of days later, a guy named Jan Schmidt on Twitter said that they've added an extension marking it as a VR display to Windows, which is super intriguing. So anyway, all of this to say, and I'm sure Adam will have some comments here because being a Helldivers fan as well. Amazing Game of the Year grade game that's come out the gates. Incredible gameplay if you can find anyone to play it with. I was playing it with PSVR 2. I then switched to Quest 3 with Virtual Desktop, and I'm playing it in like a giant cinema and all this kind of stuff. But hot damn, Jose, I'm falling further and further and further down this hole of playing 2D just flat games in VR. And it's like maybe tier 1 on the scale of immersion, but goddamn, I love it. I am smitten. I love it. Go play Helldivers, everybody.
Yeah,
what a game. And
I mean, I've been living under a rock for the past couple of weeks probably. And also there's probably not a game that is very much for me, but like, what is Helldivers? Like, what do you do?
You're basically a space marine, an expendable space marine, who's signed up in this kind of galactic faction to protect Super Earth. Super Earth is where everybody lives, and it's the center of this galaxy. And you have the opportunity to kind of go on get in and get out missions where you land on a planet and you're trying to eradicate the bugs, for example, get to an extraction point, fight them off before the flight out off the planet gets off, and extract useful minerals or samples. So there's a science part to it, Rowdy. I'm trying to sell you on the game now.
Have you seen the movie Starship Troopers, Rowdy?
Yeah, Starship Troopers is a good example.
That's that. You can't choose a faction. You can't, for example, say I want to play Bug or I want to play Space Marine.
No, you're only human. Because you're trying to protect humanity. So if you'd be a traitor if you
I'm
were
out.
I'm
done.
or a automaton. How dare you?
I am here for the humans.
I want to be a Bug.
The feeling of like you do get to pick what planets you land on, and they're kind of the periphery of human existence. And so you go and you try to take down, the bugs on one planet, and on another planet, it feels like a totally different game. Like on one, you're like, I've got guns, I can just mow down this like plague of things coming at me, very Left 4 Dead style, right? Instead of zombies, you got bugs coming at you. But then there's the what I'll call hide and seek shooter of the Terminator-like game, which feels like, oh my God, they want to extinguish humanity, and you feel like Sarah Connor from Terminator. Like you really feel hunted, and they're strong, and you have to take them out. So I don't know, but the coolest part about it is you're not just with guns. You have ships floating above you, like in the original like StarCraft CGI, the really old ones from the 90s, where you've got these battleships like hanging over you, these frigates, and you can call down, I'm not joking, nuclear strikes, all kinds of buzzy orbital just death from above, and it's incredible. There's even mechs to kind of thunder about on the planet. This is a game for you, for many, many people out there. That's all I'm going to say. But I
love friendly fire. There's a lot of hilarious potential for friendly fire, and it's great. Because I think it's the same company that also did like Magicka, right? Or they were very
yes.
like friendly fire, but kind of funny when it happens sometimes, depending on your friends, I guess.
Crossing the beams, that was amazing. Yeah, that game was great.
It's a great game.
So yes, it is very tongue-in-cheek. It's not like overly serious, but they talk about spreading managed democracy. And for anyone who's played it, you really get into the rhetoric like so fast.
And I think
Very
the
on
big
point humor.
appeal, there's you actually feel like you're contributing towards something because the game will change depend on if the players were able to, clear this planet of bugs. Then the story changes on like, oh, now there's a new game mode option because you guys were able to do this. So they're really, I don't know how they do it. I feel like the devs never rest because sometimes the stuff happens on weekends too, because players are dedicated to like, all right, like let's finish this thing. But so I don't know how it works internally, but it's insane. It's really good.
Yeah, it's honestly, I will be surprised if another game tops that game this year. And I've been trying dramatically hard to try to get injectors working for like the first time ever. I mean, people like Paradise DK will do this and they'll do it with every single game. So PD, the second you unlock this, you tell me, buddy, because we all want Helldivers in VR. Like this is one of those examples I said last podcast where I don't need full fat VR. I just need to be in that world because the world like Returnal, like the world of Returnal is just so rich, or like Horizon Zero Dawn, right? You want to be in that world. You want to feel surrounded and enveloped by it. And the best I can do right now is an incredibly large, wraparound monitor and virtual desktop at the minute. I was using my PSVR 2, but that no longer works, which I kind of half hate Sony for taking it away. And the other side of me is super excited for what's to come. So it does point in the direction that perhaps direct connection could be possible or dongle connection. But it does look like it won't be streaming. I don't know, Jose. Did you have a counterpoint to that?
I hope I'm wrong. There's a lot of hardware. Without a dongle will definitely be needed. Maybe for specific graphics cards that don't have the display link. I saw the driver signature. When you build any APIs for any device, whether it be locally connected or wirelessly, the computer and the software needs to recognize it. I think that's kind of what we are seeing is maybe the drivers for something like Steam VR or whatever software is going to be used to kind of know it's a headset when it's streaming from a PSVR 2, and that way Valve can create really crazy API layers, like maybe like the communication with like the eye tracking and the haptics and all that,
the facial rumble and all that. Yeah, you're dead on here, Jose. I was about to interject and say, like, why would you change the USB connectivity interface that's there today, that's working, that's a feature that was sold, that is part of the headset? It's a very niche market who was using people like me who are using the Virtual Link port to their PSVR 2. But what you're saying right now is disturbingly spot on. I think you're right. I think it's still going to be Steam Link, and they're going to pass. That kind of makes me sick a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that little screen. When I saw
wait. Then why would they be plugging it into a PC?
Because there is a warning notification that you get. I think that if there is, let's say, if it does work on Display Link, there's going to be some cards that won't have enough juice to power it. The PSVR 2 requires 15 watts, I think, and most USBs carry about 12 max. One thing that I want to, and I hate getting into this really technical stuff, but for example, the XR2 CPU that's kind of on the Quest and then on the XR Elite, for example, depending on the wattage that goes into this headset, certain features turn on or off. It could also possibly be that update may disable certain features on the PSVR 2, and all you get are the immersive monitors in 3D, hopefully. Maybe they disable eye tracking and certain features that if you want that, you need to do it on the PSVR 2. It could also be a notification system. So if you connect it, it's telling you, hey, look at the computer, and you just get a nice splash screen saying, hey, you can't use this directly without...
I fucking hope it isn't that. That's gonna break my heart, dude. That's gonna break my heart.
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, they're gonna have to sell something. A cable, a dongle. It could be dangerous for laptops that that don't have that proper wattage and somebody connects it. It happens all the time. I've seen headsets kind of fry out like that. I remember Samsung had a Odyssey headset that was USB-C based.
Yep. I'm really interested, and chat. Some of you are quite smart and on the up and up with this stuff. So let us know your theories here based on what we've seen. I don't know, Rowdy, if you got a chance to show him because I'm distracted. But did you get a chance to show him the picture of the man with the headset? It's like a subtweet on the video where I was discovering this. So if you can throw that up.
Those, but like I don't know if I showed that specific one.
See if you can, just because I want to talk just a little bit to that. So there's this again
your tweet?
Through the lens. Yeah. So the tweet where it was me with the PSVR 2 on the desk, but below that it's a subtweet,
Right.
and it's just a picture of a man in the headset. You got it?
I'll find it.
So basically what it is as I said, it's just this dude taking off his headset and looking at a monitor. But there was just something so close to an original little image we had. It was a JPEG or a GIF or something that showed what is virtual reality really like. And this image actually by itself, to me, if I had to explain to someone what's VR like, this is almost the reverse of that, because it's like, look at this monitor, and when I'm in the headset, I'm in the experience. And it's rare that we get like iconography that's really so straight. But I'm hoping that this can. Yeah, Rowdy's just bringing it up there now. So this is funny. This isn't animated, unfortunately, but it's that arrow to the desktop. That was the thing that was.
Oh yeah, I did
like
shout it.
icon-looking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hope I'm wrong, but I'll give you some cope.
I do hope you're wrong. If it's just an error message,
I hope I'm wrong. So I'll give you some coping. I don't see a monitor in that picture. That does not look like a monitor to me. That looks like a floating window. That looks like a floating window that you can grab and move around.
Oh,
is that the stand, or maybe that looks like the Steam VR menu button, the grabbable menu button that you can move windows around.
I don't even know why people would think it's a window over a monitor.
I mean, the guy also does not have legs, so I mean, maybe
that's true. It could also be. Yes, Centaur. It could.
Oh Jesus! But
no,
like this.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you go.
I was just saying, like, if it was like a monitor icon, I feel like it would be more like straightforward. Like, it looks kind of like downwards and like in a floating angle.
I'm trying to make it look 3D, but without it being 3D.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like this is a 3D window. I think it is. I still think it's Steam VR. I hope I'm wrong.
Dude. All I can say is I got the heebie-jeebies when I put my headset on and this thing showed up and I was like, oh God, they changed something with that firmware. Now this is at the same moment. There's other things changing in the landscape, and nothing ever seems to stick in VR. Like we've got software licenses getting pulled, and various games blowing up, studios going under. Like it just feels that way this year more than even past years. So I'm nervous every time I see a change. It's like, uh-oh, are they going to take away another baby of mine? And in this case, they did. But I hope they've got two babies coming back, because 2 for 1 is a decent swap. But I just want to say that Sony isn't safe from economic downturn either. You certainly won't hear me supporting the what I think is problematic rhetoric that the PSVR 2 is ailing and abandoned like some orphan child. No way, Jose. But Sony is said to have stopped producing more PSVR 2s while they move through the current stock. And you know what? We've got Bloomberg. They seem to love their doomsday posts about this stuff. So I always take that with a pinch of salt, but fair enough. Maybe that it's not selling as fast as they thought. And on top of that, we heard even sadder news through Miles Dyer that PlayStation Studio London will close, and there will be a reduction in the Fire Sprite team, i.e. the team who brought us Horizon Call of the Mountain, the VR adaptation that actually was on the box packaged with PSVR 2. That's only a year after launch, so that's a yucky story. So while many, seem to be making haircuts, that is a dramatic one. The London studio brought us, things like Blood and Truth. There have just been so many amazing pieces of VR software. And to have that close its doors, like 2024 is a rough year. We knew that, rough years were ahead of lockdown and that period, and people were shoring things up last year. This seems to be the year where, unfortunately, companies have to double down and kind of say, how are we going to survive? And this is part of it. So it's not the end of VR, but it certainly is the end for certain teams that were fashioned around the concept of VR, delivered really great software to us, and now have to, break up and go find other homes and other jobs. So again, I'm sorry to bring you such kind of bitter news. That's just the way it is in 2024 at the minute. On the Quest side of the house, right? Even Beat Games aren't safe. With original lead Jan Ilavsky departing from Beat Games, the original creative director. He's going to head off to work on different innovative games. Now, this isn't a surprise to me. It reminds me of when the DayZ creator left Bohemia off to kind of create his own studio, because you make some stellar hit, overnight hit, and you get stuck to it and they want to double down on it, just like with Notch in Minecraft. And you get stuck in, this is my life now, this one game. But that creator, that carpenter of games, wants to go and do some more carpentry, make some more cool new experiences, right? And so that's what Jan said on Twitter about that, or X. Oh, I don't like calling it X. So that's it. It's not Beat Saber for life, and he's leaving the studio in the hands of others. Now, I think Beat Saber's time in the shine is probably over with. I know we recently got the Daft Punk DLC and all this, but they're going to continue to milk it. But I feel like from a creative's perspective, at the moment, it seems a bit suffocated.
Yeah.
And
I feel like Daft Punk is like the ultimate, like the ultimate song to get into that game. It's like, oh, I feel like getting Daft Punk as a DLC, and that was kind of like the last DLC you could ever imagine for a game like this. Or Cry for Help. I saw it more like a bow tie. Honestly,
like a bow tie.
When I saw Daft Punk release for this, I actually, I don't know who I was talking to, but I did say that. I was like, oh, this is probably like the last big DLC that Beat Saber will probably get for a long time. And then they announced the departure of the CEO. I was like, okay, this makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And go on.
No, I just wanted to bring up, and it sucks, and hopefully I don't get pitchfork for this, but I'm used to it. But I have to say this is, if you're not swimming, you're going to drown and sink. I don't want to be disrespectful to people that are losing their jobs, but shame on the creative leads, shame on the development leads, shame on the decision makers, on the board makers, on the executives that are leveraging their stock value over the values of the developers and creators. They should die. These companies should die. They should disappear. They should burn down if they're going to continuously keep pushing and hitting a non-receptive industry with telling people, it's like, this is what you want. This is what mainstream people want from a VR game, and continuously keep dying over and over again. Then let them die. To be honest, Horizon Zero Dawn VR, like a cool concept, really gimmicky. It is not a great game. It is technically a VR game because it only forces you to use VR interactions. But we have now been introduced to technical concepts like Flat 2 VR, right? Which is what I mentioned earlier, the coupling of VR and interactions and how you interact with these virtual spaces. Like, just give me Horizon Call of the Mountain, like, just give it to me in 8K, 240 hertz, or whatever refresh rate the headsets can push to, and give me immersiveness. Give me. It's okay if I got a gamepad. It's a pass through. I can see my gamepad. It's not the end of the world. And also, there's masking. There's VR technologies now where you'll be able to see your physical controller in the VR space. So all of the weird misconceptions or narrative that VR was trying to push back in the day, like, oh yeah, you need to see your hand so you can. It's over. Like, either you start swimming and make
definitely really evolving.
Cool, evolve.
I really so and I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm diametrically opposed to the concept that, like, the forest has to burn down to allow new growth to come back. Like that's definitely a concept that's out there. I think
I'm here for that.
I think it's important that these companies, the parent companies and studios, do find a way to survive through this. And I don't worry about the creatives behind it. That's the thing. They'll go on to additional teams. They will start new fires, so to speak. And I really do think that we're going to see new growth before long, and that is healthy. I do think that's healthy. So maybe not agreeing with you 100% there, Jose. You got strong opinions on that.
Zim, you gotta come. Let's say this is you gotta bring in that I forgot the name of the game. Oh my god, that we're just talking about the All for Humans, the one that's all for humanity. Helldivers, like, you have to have the Helldivers mentality for VR. It's like, if you're not in this space to help us grow, and you're just here to survive, die. Like, die. I don't like VR companies that are like, oh yeah, we're.
Okay, let me just mute Jose here. And he is gone.
Healthy healthy middle ground, I think, is just knowing when to pivot. Like you can't keep trying to do the same thing over and over again and tell people, no, this is what you should like because we're the experts in the industry. It's more at being able to be like, okay, yes, we put maybe, a lot of manpower into this thing, but things have kind of moved on and our tests have shown that people don't really like this anymore. It's being able to be okay with like letting that go and move on to the current things, regardless if it's an app or game or whatever. It's gonna be different depending on what you're working on, but it's that being able to pivot, and sometimes pivot very quickly. That's why it's almost beneficial to have a smaller team, because you can do that kind of a thing versus a huge studio where like crap, we have like thousands of people and we spent so much money on this thing.
Well, we've seen it so many times, like Figment, right? Just earlier, we were talking about the web browser support, changing their kind of business model there just overnight, right? Think about where SideQuest came from. They started off as basically a multiple user environment, and I forget they just launched it now. I think the dream of the main guy. Oh shoot, what was it? What's it called? And is it Engage? No, not Engage. Adam, I think you did a promo video on it. Do you know the one where you're like climbing in canyons? It's a social game, kind of like a Rec Room or something like that, but by the SideQuest people.
Oh, yeah, they were working on their own social media or social app. I don't remember what
started with B, I think.
I know Rift. I think it's called Rift.
Chat'll tell me. But anyway, so like, and having them pivot so dramatically to supporting indie games and being really the storehouse for Banter. Oh. That was it. Thank you. So, and I think an app like Banter I don't think there's room right now for that. I'll be very frank. I think SideQuest, was looking to pivot towards something that they originally had a dream for. They really shouldn't have gone down that route again, is my opinion. Investing resource into that. I think their prowess exists elsewhere. I do think SideQuest has basically been crushed by App Lab. We saw it coming. We knew it, but there's been years to kind of pivot. And similarly, like Virtual Desktop, right? A lot of those characteristics and traits in the headset now being at OS level, Rizky Godin's project, but he still held firm to his island, still has a unique selling point there. So yeah, pivot away. You need to pivot like mad, right? And maybe to blend Jose and Adam's points, love it, live it, give it your all, and then when it's time, make the call and turn around if you have to,
or die.
Sometimes you gotta kill your baby,
or you will die. Exactly.
Oh Jesus!
It's true though. Like I hate having that energy, but it's so many companies that are like kind of pushing this narrative of trying to rebuild a wheel that nobody wants.
Well, Jose, you're living it. You're living it right now, right? I mean, it's like Meta's coming after you guys, so you're gonna have to
bring it on.
Eat your own medicine. There you go. Fight it out. So
let's do it, Mark.
This run of news might be more bitter pills to swallow than sweet. There is a silver lining for gamers. The big battle between companies is heating up as the VR market intensifies. Apple put their headset out, and now Meta, kind of in response, and similar to the Quest Pro with its cascading reductions in price in the first year, they're now dropping the Quest 2, which was already an amazing value proposition headset, to only $200. So that's pretty incredible, and comes only 3 months after a Christmas reduction to $250 on their basic SKU of 128 gigabytes for that headset. I think it's a huge value. Harkening back to the highlight that I gave, right? I've got a kid. Quest 2 is perfect for a kid, and at $200, it's beating Switch. What do you want to give your kid? A Switch? Or maybe introduce them to VR, give them something new. So if you've got a young teenager or something like that, young adult, I think that the Quest 2 now has just, to some extent, gazumped the Switch. Why is it a choice for me as a parent? Well, they get exercise doing it. They're not just sitting on their ass playing Switch. You actually, like a Gorilla Tag game, my daughter comes out after an hour and a half, very self-limiting on the amount of time she puts in. And man, she's sweating buckets. Like, actually had a lot of energy put in. It feels like playing at a playground, so it's good for social. There's a number of different things. And yeah, there's toxic kids in there, but if you raise your kids right, they'll still steer clear of those people. But yeah, it's a robust headset. Like, I wouldn't suggest giving a Quest 3 to a kid. I'll tell you why.
I agree.
There's glass on the front. They're gonna drop it. It's gonna get dropped, and it's not gonna live. And it's the same thing for Apple Vision Pro. If you put an Apple Vision Pro in the handsets, in the hands of even a 15-year-old, you're asking for that thing to get broken, right? So I think a $200 headset, now we're hitting that price point. I know we had to kind of go through a funny U curve of it was 300, then it was 400, then it was, back to 300, 250, and now we're down to 200. Man, this headset there's a lot of value in that. And to be fair, there's not a lot that you can do on a Quest 3 that you can't already do on a Quest 2. That's very decent for. You can do some mixed reality stuff. You can do most of the gaming experiences on it. There's very few titles that are really that dramatically better. I'll shout out one game that I think recently upped the ante, which is Golf Plus. Golf Plus, when the Quest 3 landed, I was like, man, this looks like re-rendered blurry mess. And then the menus got sharp, and now the backgrounds got sharp. And so now it's kind of consistent across. So if you haven't ever jumped into this kind of pro golfing game, Golf Plus is a really great social game. So if you have done all of the mini golfing and you're like, hey, maybe I want to actually, get good at real golf, Golf Plus is a great game. A little expensive on the DLC side. I've always moaned about that. But that's one of the things you could do if you pick up a Quest 2 for that cheap price.
I wanted to add on what you said of adding value. Have you Lucas Risotto, the game Pillow VR?
Yeah,
I think it's called.
That's a good point. Call it out.
They added I'm so fascinated by a colored layer to the grayscale pass through that the Quest 2 offers.
It's really cool. You know what it reminds me of, Jose? It reminds me of 1920s photographs that were in black and white, and then they bring them to someone to colorize it.
Yes. I'll give you a better one. The Game Boy Color running Game Boy games. How they gave you a preset tablet of colors. So if you had a Game Boy Color and you played a original Game Boy game on it, the Game Boy Color will add preset colors to the game. So it will inject them. Yeah. So it wouldn't make it look colored, but it will add some contrast. I remember playing games I think Pokemon did really good with that. So they would add color layers. And I remember if you booted up the Game Boy Color with a Game Boy game, if depending on what if you turn it on while holding up, down, left, right, or any one of those, it will have different color filters for the game that you're playing that was originally meant to be grayscale.
God, I swear,
Game Boy Advance did that as well for the older games.
Yeah. You are killing me this podcast, because first it was chocolate cookies, then you said the word pie, and now all I can think in my head is that gorgeous purple Game Boy Color, which I yearned for as a teen. I wanted that so badly. I didn't get it. I never got it, but it was one of those things that you had a dream.
I gotta send you a picture. So I have a buddy of mine who owns. He remade one, but in glass. So imagine how the original one looks with the plastic, but imagine in glass, and it's probably one of the most sexiest things I've ever seen in my life.
Speaking of something not to give to a kid, don't give that to me.
A glass Game Boy.
God damn, that sounds so. God, that must take some serious craftsmanship to be able to do that. Lord. All right. Well, on top of all of this news, there has been leaked speculation about the Quest 3S. I'm sure you've all seen this. And in that, even more resurgence of this whole concept of GTA San Andreas potentially still coming, which I'm going to take with a major pinch of salt. But some finding the game lead character in the stills from the leak. So this headset looks a lot like an Oculus. If an Oculus Go kind of did some funny business with a Quest 3, you'd end up with the Quest 3S. It looks like a very flat front, kind of black and white look to it. Cameras on it that look like the back of a modern day phone, like an iPhone, for example. That kind of barrage, that array of cameras. I don't know. Is this real? Is it not? I don't know. It feels too soon for them to be releasing another product, honestly. But maybe they're hell bent on taking a notch out of Apple's belt with now a $200 Quest 2 and perhaps something to kind of give people an upgrade who can't afford a $500 Quest 3. So just really serving that mid-market. It's interesting to me, and for those who, what I can't tell about this headset is really if it's for people who want mixed reality but are willing to deal with original Fresnel lenses is the kind of thinking behind it. It's an interesting play. What are all your take on this Meta 3S? By the way, this is meant to be a leak in some internal corporate thing, and they showed this nervous employee staff member in one of the captures. It was really, really funny. I saw his face going around the internet, and people are like, to be this guy is a little bit dangerous. But I don't know if he was the leaker or not, but presumably he was. So what are your thoughts? Quest 3S, is this the right time? Is that the right headset? Is it a right play in 2024 for Meta to be releasing yet another headset?
Right time. I don't know how real some of these are, but it's really weird how we're turning into like phones. You know, you got your like S22 and then S22A. I don't know, I'm just making up model numbers, but you know what? How it's like slightly tweaked versions, like phones.
Yeah.
I really don't know how this will do for VR though. We just haven't seen anything like it yet, where it's not quite a full upgrade, but it's like a half upgrade with a cheaper price, or maybe a half downgrade rather is the proper. Yeah,
the closest we had, Adam, was probably like the undercutting of one product releasing too soon after another one. We had it with Oculus Go, because Oculus Go came out, 3DoF headset, and then less than a year later they launched Quest 1, and it's like, why on earth would I buy the 3DoF headset if we've now got 6DoF standalone? So that was a big
easier to own the market if you're competing against yourself.
But I think about the devs, like devs supporting X number of devices already, to have to go and worry about another, technical build to test against. It's just
that's where the carrot and the carrot on the stick comes in, because now they tell the developers like, hey, you can just check this box that says Quest 3S, Quest 3, Quest 2, Quest whatever, and it works on all of them. And now you're accidentally, or not accidentally, it's purposeful. This is what they want. Like Adam just said, why are we treating these computers like the industry keeps trying to push them towards, or rather what the enthusiasts are trying to push it towards, but the businesses are trying to push this to be the cell phone market. They're not the same. And it's what's going to hurt the VR industry. Maybe until
do you like this movie? Or do you not like? I'm getting the sense you're not a fan of this.
I'm halfway on it. I think that there should be companies like Meta that are pushing the headset or the cell phone replacement of the future narrative by making the prices so low that you can just upgrade every year and you can subsidize it through a network carrier. There's potentials there, but it will have to replace the cell phone. There has to be a conversation there that says, okay, what do you do on a cell phone nowadays? Most people don't call. Okay, so all you need is a phone number and the ability to make calls. What about video calls? Apple Vision Pro kind of leading the way on that now, right? So there's going to be a conversation maybe in 5 years. I don't see it any sooner, where you could replace the light headset with a cell phone. But at the same time, there is an industry or the enthusiasts that are saying, hey, we want to treat these as computers. I want an immersive display that works with the architecture I already know and integrates very well. But the companies that have these powers right now, they have no interest in that. And why would they? Why would they want you to buy a headset and not upgrade for another 5 years?
And you're right. They're establishing a ladder, right? So you got your Quest 2 at 200. You potentially got a Quest 3S at 300. You got the Quest 3 at 500. And that's what a lot of the major mobile phone manufacturers do with their lineup. They're like, whatever money you have, you just give it to us. We'll give you a device. You get $200, you get $1,000, we give you the full scale. Where we haven't yet seen Meta do justice, I think, is the high tier part. I think Quest Pro, I still to this day think Quest Pro was an early premature release, over-engineered product. I think Meta can do better for that much money, for $1,000+. And I'm really keen to see them, because I also think the Quest 3 was to some extent a pricing mistake. Like, they released a product that is just beyond people's comfort level for what that device then does. Whereas the Quest 2, when it launched, was not that. It was like the perfect spot, like $300 for a next gen headset that actually was subsidized down from like $500 or $600. Hell yes, everyone jumps on that, and they stole the market as a result of that release. And then they had to kind of tail it back in the next couple of releases. But I'm keen on what their next move is going to be.
I just don't think the market is ready for a three-tiered price product. Like, I think it makes sense to have Quest 3 and even a Quest 3S.
Even 4, Rowdy, right? We've still got Quest Pro.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't like. I mean, the current generation. Like, I don't consider Quest 2 to be in current generation, but I do consider Quest Pro to be in current generation because it could be a price point. Yeah. But I don't think that
I think it's going to play well.
I think play well. If the Quest 3S plays well, I think then the Quest 3 will suffer. And like I don't think there's enough space in the market to have the Quest 3 and the Quest Pro to be competing with each other and both products being successful. And on the other side, I don't think there's enough space in the market for the Quest 3S and the Quest 3 to both be successful. Yeah. I think two price tiers would be ideal.
I got to say something on
price and
the
low
back
price.
of that, Rowdy, because
Go ahead.
the narrative in the general domain of how people are talking, what's being thought about, what news is out there. I remember that Facebook was a company behind the whole Cambridge Analytica thing. And I keep seeing in our industry huge positives for Meta. And again, I realize I'm a Meta partner. I'm going to say this anyway, right? Huge positives for Meta. And then like complete opposite, like sink the Titanic for PSVR 2. And when you put that thought in someone's head, it influences their behavior.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm so anti that. I see both devices in terms of their technical acumen, their libraries, their capability, and how they fit, almost as brothers on the shelf. Like they're almost equivalents, and looking at slightly different markets. So they're like, it's the right product on both sides of the camp for different people. But I don't see that reflected evenly in the news, in social media. And I honestly worry that they're up to their old tricks again, and they're just fucking over Sony by controlling that, somehow pulling marionette strings behind the scenes. Now that sounds very conspiracy theorist.
It's not.
But having seen everything from Snowden through the Cambridge Analytical stuff through Trump's election and things like that. Like, I'm just nervous because when we've got these engineers and these teams behind software houses, this is real lives, real businesses, real people that are potentially suffering on the back of someone pushing the needle. And that's what it feels like to me right now. That's what it feels like. That's what our arena feels like, and I'm upset about it.
It's blackballing through supply chain, right? Like when you look at all the smaller hardware companies when they're trying to expand and grow. A lot of people don't realize, even the Apple Vision Pro, who makes their lenses and their displays? Sony does, right? Yeah. And how does Sony respond to that? By releasing their own high-end headset. And how does Apple respond to that? By partnering with HBO Max. And if you look at HBO's Twitter now, they're listing the IMAX theaters and Apple Vision Pro. Think of how
cool.
That's
cool.
association is going to be 3 years from now. And there's people already started to make the I saw somebody talking by the numbers, like the cost of an Apple Vision Pro versus going and seeing 10 of the top 10 movies of every year and the costs and all that. And it sucks to be that person, but blackballing is a real thing in industry. Going full circle with what I mentioned earlier. The Gangnam 9 were very, very big enemies during the late 70s to the early 80s. What forced them to unite was a company saying, hey, we're taking over and we're dominating this space. And Meta is 100% doing that. When you look at the development infrastructure you mentioned, why would you release a cannibalizing headset against your headset? Think about industries that are outside the home consumer. Right. For example, the Quest 3S might be a great product if it's $50 less for schools that don't necessarily want, the bells and whistles.
And that's taking me back to the point I made earlier, right on the cast, where if you want something that's sleek and right for like the workplace or for a worker who's going to replace their desktop screens, like, again, that's where I would hope this would slot in. But I almost wished it was a competitor releasing this headset, like a Pico or somebody or an HTC, because it's needed. And while Apple's up here playing in the clouds and Meta's gunning for them by taking out their legs at the bottom of the pyramid, I still don't see enough competition at this mid-tier and low level. We don't have it. And I think what you're asking for, and I'll be asking for it after this podcast, is that group of 9. We need them. We need them to come in and kind of change it up, because I know companies don't play nice and they don't play fair. And that's the whole point of the game. But I see this, and it hits me in the soul a little bit, where you're like, you see a contender and you're like, God, you could, like, I still believe to this day, if that rhetoric wasn't out there, anti PSVR 2, I think they'd be doing so much better.
100%.
I really, really do. So you got to be careful. It's a thought. It's a war of thought. And it's active right now. Mindset is what I feel.
Mindset is what dictates an industry's growth. And
Now,
when you are, and I wanted to add one little thing to what you said is also think about the politics when it comes to marketing, right? I don't want to make specific shout outs, but think of the top 3 PR companies right now that are very embedded in our communities. Who are pulling the strings, right? It's more than just bringing competition. It's also investing in conversation. It's embedding yourself in communities. It's one company that I think that they're doing amazing work for Meta is Impact Reality, for example, right? Yeah. Impact Reality is doing amazing work for Meta, and it's because they're embedded in the community. They're pushing the narrative. They're talking to the developers. They're on their boots on the ground. I think that it's much more than releasing headsets and talking to investors all the time, right? I know a lot of companies are kind of doing that right now. Talk to the industry, talk to the enthusiasts. It doesn't matter how much data you have. You need to build a narrative. Storytelling is how you build a product. And
I lost the connection here.
We might want to move on maybe because we still need to get to the main topic.
I know.
Yeah, I was just trying to say it's like there are shady politics. It is 100% real. It is not a conspiracy theory. And also to kind of give to Meta's horn, they have data. And that's one thing that I will never, ever speak against Meta in any way, shape, or form is if they're releasing this, there's a lot of data that they have that is telling them to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. So that's moving on from kind of Quest 3S potential being out there. And I'm going to move on. We're speaking about the future here. We're going to move on to next piece here. There's a new 8-episode production out from Netflix running as an exclusive. You can watch 3-Body Problem, and this deals with serial deaths of scientists, a fantastical VR headset of the future, and first contact. The first 2 episodes were notably slow, but they lay out the premise, and after that, kind of solidifies as this American adaptation of a Chinese original. It's coming from the creators of Game of Thrones, so you're in for a ride with this one. I sat in virtual desktop. The immersion was great. Had my own personal cinema. I've been enjoying that a lot. No distractions, and no social media mind control happening either. When I sit on the couch with my wife, we watch on the big TV or whatever. I find myself reaching for my phone. So I still like that about VR. It's kind of my little quarantine zone when I want to really ingest media and pay full attention. For those without Netflix and who find this intriguing, you can actually watch the original subtitled Chinese series online too. 3-Body Problem, except for 3 is spelled out instead of the letter 3. And this, of course, from a VR perspective, gives us a glimpse of something without introducing any spoilers. I saw their imagination of a headset and a game world, and I immediately was like saying to my wife, I'm like, God damn, I want to play that right now. This happened with a UK, I can't remember the series now, a UK episode from the BBC a while back where they had a dream world and a landscape and this kind of imagination of where VR could go. Very Ready Player One, to be honest. But in this one, they actually made mention at one point of Oculus when they picked the headset up. And obviously the company is now Meta, and the gaming division is Meta Quest. And it was really funny to me that the word Oculus is still alive and well in people's minds, enough that it's making mainstream television. So yeah, it's a great show so far. Jose, you've watched some. What's your impression?
I don't want to talk too much about it because it's spoiler. I might get spoilery. Exactly. You mentioned the scientist dying, getting killed, part of it. I don't want to.
You like that? You like the dying?
Well, if anything, it made me very sad, right? Because I know Zim, you've mentioned it, but some of us have that little voice in our head that direct us on what to build, what to put our passions in, and what to dedicate your life to. And without getting too spoilery, there's a scene where one of the scientists are being stopped from being scientists, and if they don't stop the research or the work, they get killed. And there is something happens where one of the scientists is under that threat and ends up trying to see if the threat is real and continues the research. And the threat is quite real. And there is like a very emotional scene where the scientist is talking to another one and says, some of the scientists were either getting killed or killing themselves, and the scientist says, I understand why they're killing themselves. And it's a very subtle
good point.
It's a very subtle nod to living a life without purpose, being told don't go after your purpose, like what that can do. And it to be honest, it kind of spiraled me into an existential crisis, because as somebody who is, as I mentioned earlier, fighting with the big guys, imagine being told, hey, give up, right? We're not, and that's the VR stuff is really cool, but that's kind of the what stuck to me about that show.
Beautiful.
The most.
Beautiful. And you know what? I didn't understand that line when it hit. I appreciate you highlighted it, because you're right. What's more suffocating than kind of an ideological slavery, being able to, survive, but not live. Yeah. Oof. Dude, yeah, I can see how that hits you in the gut.
Yeah. I was looking at like thinking it put me in a really weird place, but everybody should watch it. It's a good show.
Thanks. All right, so that's on Netflix, Three Body Problem. Just a couple of game news bites before we flip over to Adam for the GDC rundown. So a couple of little highlights here. Resolution Games have finally brought Demio mid-game save capability. Meaning, Rowdy, do you remember the Rat King?
Oh my days.
we played the Rat King on launch before anything was easier, and man, we spent, I think it was 5 hours together trying to take it down.
Kill that thing.
It was so hard. But it means that those 3 or 4 hour dungeon runs can be done now in bite size. You don't have to wait just for a save at the end of a level. You can save, exit out, right? And we know that their standalone title, Demio Battles, had tried to kind of address some of that, giving a lighter game that, was maybe 20, 30-minute sessions. But this change really ups the dynamic, and I'm glad they made it. After several years of hardcore Demio, when times were tough, they've kind of letting it lighten up a little bit. And kudos to them for doing that. Gone are the days of having to find a full day to play Demio.
I think the hardest probably challenge is just people want to play it, but they're just oh shit, I have to. Okay, what time is it? What time do you have? How much time do you have?
I only have 1 hour battery.
Yeah, and now with the quests,
I remember when it launched, and it was hang on a second, the runs for this game are double that of the battery life of the headset. Surely that's a problem. And it was.
Realistically, if you think about it, it takes 15 minutes to get all your friends together, because they're either oh yeah, I forgot the time, or let me eat something, or let me go to the bathroom. So you're sitting in the lobby for 15 and a half an hour, and that's killing your battery.
I feel bad if you're waiting an hour for your friends to show up.
As an example,
No,
Zim.
it's fine.
Zim.
Wow, there's so many swords being thrown across the table this podcast. All right. Next, Beefy Modder, Dr. Beef, has announced that Tomb Raider, the original, is coming. Support for VR. So if you're a fan of those pointy Madonna bras, or just have a thing for the original Lara Croft adventures, this will be one for you. I myself have never finished a Lara Croft game, but I did a few years ago try their VR experience, which was a huge disappointment. 2 hours into a single-player game, really good modern Tomb Raider, but it was like a rummage through an old mansion and look at artifacts experience. Man, if anyone else went through that, yuck. It was just no thank you. That is not how we do VR, please. That was in that era that I think Rowdy and I mutually hated, which was all these bite-sized VR experiences bolted onto AAA games, where you're no, don't do this. I don't have to buy a full-fledged title. Yeah. And there's a little bit more icky news, because I know you haven't had enough. It looks like virtual reality, the Rick and Morty VR game, might go down soon, along with other Adult Swim IPs. They're going to be pulled off of Steam shortly. So thanks to VR's Nima for the tip in advance. If you haven't had a chance to experience Rick and Morty in VR, worth doing. Fun game. Not terribly long, but fun game. So go try that out before
it
that
depends
one.
Warner Brothers 2, it looks like.
It depends on how much conversation you want to get. That's hours of conversation in that game, and it doesn't repeat. It's crazy how much stuff they recorded. Just
dialogue.
Dialogue.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. It's another one of those accounting and accounting plus, right?
Yeah.
the dialogue and the comedy. If you're in for that kind of stuff. I remember it was in the era where you didn't hear the F word a lot in VR games. People were playing it safe, and then we started to have it come out more and more, and people were making actually like adult worthy titles. But that's one of them, and it's great. I still remember the me syncs, like the cloning character scene in the VR game. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And finally, as of March 15th, we've had to say go to BOGO. So BOGO has shut down as of the 15th of March. Now, just to try that out, I picked up an old Quest 1, disconnected from the net, and I can tell you, thankfully, my copy is still working as of March 23rd. I'm going to keep that device disconnected and playable for the sake of my daughter. My 3-year-old loves BOGO, asks for it all the time. So if you want to feed BOGO some fruit and say long live BOGO, keep that headset offline, and the title can still be played, which is great. For those who don't have old devices and only have modern ones, all hope is not lost. The learnings of BOGO are actually being carried forward, with a splinter faction of devs carrying the work ahead with a new virtual creature game coming out. There's not a name against this yet, but it's by the Wind Up Minds devs. So check them out at windupminds.com. I've only got like 100 followers at this point. Keep an eye on them, because we're gonna see something out of at least part of the BOGO team in the future. So looking forward to that. And that's my spiel done.
How do you explain that to your kids? Like, BOGO's dying. like because there are some kids that are really attached to it. How do you explain your virtual pets dying or like not going to be around anymore?
Yeah. It's not easy.
Completely against the whole concept of a digital pet. It's so upsetting in a weird way. I wanted to mention, I don't know, and I don't want to like sound too confident on this because I could be incorrect, but one thing that I've noticed, and a lot of people, I haven't seen people covering that, is that Meta does release deprecated software at the Internet Archives. If you actually look up,
even after John Carmack's time,
I'm pretty sure.
I know he was a proponent for that, and he dragged them through for that.
Yeah,
they're still doing it.
Yeah, they're still doing it. I saw they have released a few source code drivers that I actually needed recently, and I saw that they were recently uploaded. So maybe that's all of the software will end up there. There's a lot of APKs there, so hopefully BOGO is going to be available like at the Internet Archives. That way you don't have to like enslave your Quest 1 in an offline world.
Access BOGO from the cloud heaven.
I am laughing my ass off here. Mad Hatter just said, "We'll never get to find out what BOGO smells like."
Stop that.
Napalm.
Probably.
Rain.
That little guy.
Funny.
Well, that was good. I hope that I didn't deflate you too much, as there's been a lot of end of the line news this session. But let's see what's up and coming. Just back from our trip, Adam's going to tell us about GDC 2024. And before we get into the main topic, I have one question for Adam, and that is, how the hell did traveling with an Apple Vision Pro go? Because it looked like that thing was not going to fit in a carry-on.
Yeah. So I had to tell him, I was like, okay, either I check in this luggage and we risk it and see what happens, but you get the box, or you let me take it out of the box, unbox, and put it in. Because he also bought the carrying case for it. So he ended up being like, I don't just check in luggage, so just do what you got to do. Because so I did. I managed to somehow cram all of my stuff. Because I also kept, if you ever seen an unboxing for the Apple Vision Pro, there's cables and stuff that are kept in sort of like these sleeves. So I tried to take the sleeves out in their totality because they were relatively flat and pack those the best I could. I recorded the unboxing in case he just wanted to relive and pretend that he was there. But I did manage to get it there. I don't think he's tried it yet because it's just been crazy at GDC with meetings and whatnot, but it seemed to make it in one piece when I looked it over. I kept all the cardboard against the lens. I took as little apart as I could, except I think for the extra
good on you. That would drive. I would be so nervous to get someone else's Apple Vision Pro and then get it to them without breaking it. My God. Yeah, Adam sent us a little picture that was like the Apple Vision Pro box like sticking wildly outside of the carry-on. And I
No
thought
way.
that might be the answer. So I'm glad you did the unboxing in a careful way for the Vision Pro's new owner. Well, with that,
Yeah.
let's take us forward to GDC and what you found, because I know almost nothing about GDC and I'm keen to hear how it was on the land down under.
So I do have at least some happier news about things that are coming up instead of things that are shutting down. You're welcome for that. But I'll kind of go at it more as a like game release style as well as my experience for the demos I tried. But overall, pleasantly surprised. Although I think last year was pretty good too. GDC is great for VR games and VR developers, which makes sense too, because they're in San Francisco, so you got Meta there too. A lot of developers are probably doing their pitches and whatnot. But a lot of developers, not only on the show floor, but also just outside of GDC. So a lot of private secret meetings at WeWorks and WorkWises and all those little rentable office buildings. But yeah, I did want to highlight the ones that stood out to me the most. So some of them I couldn't even mention yet anyway. But I'll start off with Nope Challenge, which they had a booth on the show floor. Now, Nope Challenge is, I want to call it a game, but it's also sort of facing your fears. And now they have 3 different types of fears currently. One is spiders. The other one is clowns. And then and then the last one is heights. So I didn't try heights because I felt like that would be the kind of most boring of them. But I did try spiders and one of the clown levels. And so they break it apart into 3 different extremes. So like in Spider 1, a conveyor belt sends out a kid's drawing of a spider, and then it goes up to like a picture of a spider in a picture frame, and then sort of a cute little plush of a spider, but it like the animations on it sort of are a little gross. And then at the end of that one, there's a spider in a tank, and you got to get a key for it and unlock it and transfer that spider into its little terrarium thing.
Oh, so this is like supposed to help you. So you're stepping up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I wanted to make sure that I tried the level 1 spiders for people who actually have, genuine arachnophobia. And I will say if you've ever played Kill It with Fire, the spiders look better than those. And I thought those were kind of creepy the way because they're also animated very well, which realistically, I guess we'll go with that. So anyway, extreme spiders. I was like, okay, let's go into the most scary one. Basically, you're in a house and you have a spider detector. It's almost like Phasmophobia for spiders. You didn't really need the spider detector because honestly, I could just find them myself. But there's different types of spiders. You've got to pick them up, although they have like a Half-Life Alyx style gravity, gravity glove grab, thank goodness. But you have to pick the spiders up and put them in a box, essentially. But they're all in different spots. Different spiders do different things. So some will actually like latch onto your hand, and you have to like grab a needle to cure yourself of their venom. A couple of them are really they'll just jump at you. And some of them are just really big ass creepy looking spiders. They don't do anything, but they just really look disgusting, like tarantulas but giant. So it was interesting. And you also have a watch on you at all times. It just says nope. So if the experience is ever too much for you, you tap it 3 times, and then it sends you into sort of like a relaxing beach environment. Kind of gets into like a job simulator where there's a couple of calming things you can interact with just to sort of get your mind off of it. And then when you're ready, you can tap it 3 times again and go straight back into the experience at exactly the same point that you were.
I want that note button like across
In real
all
life.
of my VR
Oh, okay.
experiences.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in my work life. Yes, in my work life, I just want to be able to like, boop, take me to a beach. Thanks. I'm done here.
Did you get any like with the
Amazing.
spiders? Like how some games like depending like I get a spider one might do like did you get any like physical reactions like thinking there was one near you or anything like that? Like
not personally, but the creepiest parts are like the sounds and the animations of the spiders. So they do a good job of making them kind of like wriggly and having, I don't know how to describe a spider sound because it kind of sounds like maracas, I guess. I don't know if that's like a realistic spider sound, but
they're
to
very
me, it was
festive.
like spider. don't know how to describe it, but it kind of feels like like a maraca.
Carnival
I don't know.
spiders.
But I can see definitely how people, if you do have arachnophobia, like this would be very triggering. The final level of it. And then really quickly, I'll go over the clown one. I only try. There's like 3 different types of clowns. There's one that like can see and hear you, and another one that can't. It's kind of like what was his name from Half-Life 2, or Half-Life Alex rather. He can't see you, but he can hear you.
Freddy? No.
No.
Oh, Jeff.
Stupid name.
Jeff.
Jeff.
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of like Jeff. So each clown has like their different, like maybe some sensory deprivation, but they're still really creepy clowns. So it's the clown ones are more like puzzles where you have to navigate around the clowns in order to get to the thing at the end, which you can usually like kill them with, I guess.
I still don't
But,
understand that. I've got a buddy who's deathly afraid of clowns, and it's like, where does that stem from? Like
Well,
a clown is like
I don't
just,
like them either.
but like they're just made.
Uncanny
Like
Valley,
I understand.
I think.
Yeah,
I definitely
that's definitely the
understand.
thing.
Is that it? Is it just a kind of
Yeah,
like
I used to have
this person
Yeah.
is
a painting my grandmother made of a clown, and I mean she wasn't the greatest painter, but my mom did hang it up in my bedroom.
oh my god.
I would say that is probably the reason why I'm not really keen on clowns.
More than likely. It was letting you sleep, bro. It was the first thing telling you good morning.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Like,
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I'd
But
love
yeah,
a picture of that if you have it sometime, Rowdy.
I'll look for it.
The Nope challenge was actually very, very good. He's planning on eventually having like mixed reality support for it as well. So it's still kind of humorous. Well, I guess it's humorous if you don't really have those phobias, but if you have them, I can see how legit. Like he said for the heights one, for example, he was showing it at another expo, and one guy legitimately crapped his pants because there's a
Whoa.
part in it where it kind of encourages you to climb up. Like he didn't want to spoil it, but he said like something chases you to sort of
You
force
didn't
you to
need
climb
that
up the
human
ladder.
excretion center.
He definitely spoiled.
Yeah, there you go. We should have had the smell-o-vision going on
Oh,
at that
gosh.
point.
I'm more.
But,
I'm more interested. He said literally shit their pants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was saying that the guy was like, I have to go, and then he was like, I went, and like in code word, he didn't want to say I crapped my pants, and so he had to take the headset, and the guy just kind of shuffled off, and he felt the developer said he felt really bad, but it was also kind of funny, but he didn't want to. He's not gonna, he didn't want to tell me his name or anything. It was some kind of a YouTuber, I guess. I don't think it's a VR person, but he would know. But
Definitely
jeez.
Mike
Yeah.
from Virtuality Oasis.
Yeah. Oh man, seeing Mike with the spiders when we did the Face Your Fears 2 thing
Yeah.
together. Oh, it was so funny. I was filming him. He was like, he screeches like an owl.
But yeah. Anyway,
That's good.
Um,
By the way, just to set things straight, been there, done that once. Same as the gentleman with some fearful stuff. It happened to me once on a stream.
really.
Yep.
Oh well, at least we're on a stream and not in like a public convention center.
Yeah.
Though. It's
Yeah, at least you're home, right? And you can get
put the
her
BI
off.
back screen on, and then
Exactly,
deal
you're
with,
fine.
your
TMI.
issues. Anyway, okay, so enough about Nope Challenge, which again was very very interesting concept to me.
Is that
this
coming to
one-
consumers? Sorry, is that?
Yes,
It's not just a showpiece. Okay.
It's coming to Quest. It'll be out next month actually, so very
Oh,
soon.
great.
Very
Super.
very soon.
That's awesome.
This one was I figured more for like maybe a Zim kind of crew. This one's called V Rider, so it's essentially super bikes, but
snap.
for VR. Yeah, so I didn't get to try this one. I could have, but I knew I was going to just crash into everything. But what I found really cool about V Rider, and this is coming to Quest and Steam and what have you sometime in Q4, like it just barely was announced at GDC. This one actually takes, because headsets, you're wearing the headset so it can track your head. If you're ducking under the visor, that actually will increase your speed. So it's very good at being able to determine where the head is in relation to the bike and adjusting your speed that way. And then the visor can also get dirty.
Nice.
And there was it wasn't hooked up or anything, but they also created a accessory for this where right now it's with Quest 2 controllers, but he said they're going to have Quest 3 support, but it actually has, you can throttle the Quest controllers, you can actually do the twisting motion, and it's on a spring, so you can do those really extreme what you want to call them, like left and right, not dodges, but like leans, in order to get like the maximum.
Like a chicane, for example, on a bike. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
neat because there's been almost zero bike experiences. There was like
Yes.
one on Oculus Go. I mean, there's been a few that were just rubbish. The problem with the bike in video games in general, for everything from like most recently, we would have seen the UEVR stuff with like Ride 4 or Ride 5. Is the physical dynamics of being on a bike and how you basically with the handlebars are counter steering to the direction of travel to get the bike to lean over. And I think for anyone who's not been on two wheels, you don't know that that's there. This looks amazing, by the way, with the kind of pole set up and that. Like, I really want to try this. That looks cool. You nailed it.
Shout out to Rodolfo, man. I actually got to see this, like, they're neighbors of ours, of my headquarters. Yeah, I got to meet them.
Nice.
And I got to learn about their game for pretty early on. But their goals are exactly that, is that they really see a vision of bringing the hardware to perhaps arcades. I can't say too much.
That's well done. Like, especially with also the rolling of the wrist.
Stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But so I thought this one, again, I'm not a big like sports or bikes or any of that, but I feel like, oh, this is gonna be a great one for Zim, and it seemed pretty good for what it was. They're going to release it on App Lab first, but it will be sort of like a more watered down version. So it'll be cheaper, won't have multiplayer, won't have all of the maps, but it is planned to be on the official Quest store sometime after with, multiplayer, the full shebang, which was an interesting idea because I've actually seen, I talked to a lot of developers on the show floor, and they're sort of doing a similar thing where maybe the demo version will be on App Lab, or that's the time where they're going to use the game more to gather feedback to improve the official Quest Store version. So it's an interesting sort of new strategy that I'm starting to see pop up with some of these developers. But
it's great. They just need to nail the feel. That's all. They need to nail the feel. So you need to get some real proper bike like motorheads in there.
I wanted to mention specifically.
It doesn't have to look fantastic. It just has to feel right, like ping pong, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know when,
it will.
Adam, did he mention the league that's working on this to you guys?
He did, yes.
Okay,
and actually, they've actually been working with real bikes, like including the sounds. Like there's in the beginning of, I don't know if it's the trailer I sent to Rowdy, but they actually have this thing in a like like a tunnel, and they're recording actual sounds from the bike. So they are probably the best people to nail down the feel of a bike for virtual reality. Like it's not just a random developers that happen to like
bikes.
Super bikes. Yeah. They're actually working with people in real life with this stuff. It's really cool.
They actually when I met Rodolfo and he was telling me about Preroll, he told me that they originally started doing mobile racing games, and they were already working with leagues, so they already had a lot of like data on how motorcycles work. And now that VR is accessible and the development is lateral, it's really cool to see them.
Super cool. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, Q4 I think is the actual release date, but they're planning on having the App Lab version. Oh, and they are planning on having a Steam version out, which will probably improve the graphics significantly. I will say that the model and the bike look really good, but you still have the limitations of the actual track model and grass and stuff on the Quest, where it's like, it looks tolerable, I'm sure, when you're in it, but could be better. So the Steam version will probably be especially really pretty.
The thing that you could be missing on a bike is shadows and the lack of fairing reflections, like seeing just the light glinting off of the front of your bike or whatever. Those small little things can mean a lot to someone who's into bikes.
Yeah, I imagine. All right, so I'll move on quickly to this one, which is FReality. They didn't have an official booth, but they sort of hijacked a random table up on the third floor, which I love.
Smart.
And they were actually showcasing a couple of different games that are being developed for their glasses. So and you know what's interesting about, I'd say 2 out of 3 of them supported hand tracking, which is still crazy to me that you can have glasses with hand tracking, but that's, a whole other spiel. The first one that he showed me was called Table Trenches. Yeah.
Wait, do they have cameras on?
Tracking. Yeah, there's 2, kind of like the Meta Smart glasses. It looks like little.
I didn't know that. Okay. Is that true on their previous Air?
I don't
hardware?
think so. No.
No, just this new one. Okay.
Just the like Air 2
Smart.
and above. But the first one I got to try was sort of a little tower defense game. It's called Table Trenches. You can basically stick the board or the play space to any surface, and you can use your phone like a controller if you wanted to, or you could use hand tracking. But it was a cute little, felt very mobile gamey, but AR. Nothing to talk home about, but interesting to see the technology grow, and happy to see more apps being developed for this thing. Then the second one I tried was Apparatus, where they basically stick this, I don't know how to describe, it's like a big chunk of machinery that's got all kinds of nozzles and buttons on it, so you actually have to walk around it. It was a puzzle game, like walk around it to be able to turn the knobs and the things in the right order, or put the things in the right place.
Cool.
I don't know what actually happens if you beat it, like if something opens up in the middle, because I didn't want to spend all day and I'm really bad at puzzles.
It looks like one of those playground things for kids. It's like stack these things, turn this wheel.
But it was satisfying. Again, I used that one in hand tracking, so to be able to boop the buttons and turn the wheels and stuff with just glasses on was very trippy to me. And then the last one I got to try was probably the most promising, but there's not really any good images or video out there of it, but it's called Landing Party. And this one's sort of like if you imagine Pokemon Go, but instead of Pokemon, there's an actual story happening.
I'm seeing a toilet.
reality.
Pokemon Go is a toilet.
I thought it was the next
was
link.
it Arcade Paradise? Skip ahead.
Pokemon would go, but it's laundry.
I didn't have an
So
image or a
confused.
video for this one.
I was worried we were about to
no
see
worries.
Snorlax enter the scene, and it's like, oh god, human and Pokemon excrement on this podcast. We don't need that. All right, continue, Adam.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Where was I? Oh yeah, so Landing Party. That one's sort of more of a story narrative based AR game. So it's not like Pokemon Go where you just find stuff randomly. What I liked about Landing Party specifically was, say, there's a spaceship you have to get to on your side, but that's in a wall. You can actually take the whole, all of the assets and shift them over into a place that's better fitting, so you can physically move over there if you want to.
Oh.
And you can actually try on your phone. Like, it's available. Eric posted it in the chat. Maybe if I remember, we'll get it in the show notes. But you can play it on your phone, like regular AR mode, Pokemon Go style. But they're also working on support for the glasses as well. And obviously, with the glasses, that was cool because I couldn't. It was very weird. I know that there were ways I could cheat it, with the control to get closer, but my brain was like, no, you have to physically walk up to these things. Like, I couldn't fathom using a button. I don't know. It was very weird. Unlike mixed reality and pass-through experiences, I guess, where you can kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It was just so strange, but it was really cool. They're working on more story-based, like meatier, augmented reality content than just kind of the.
Is the FOV really restrictive? Like, is it
it's
painful to use? Kind of like age-old Nreal glasses was like, I'll call it postage stamp. Like, what's that like?
It's not the best, but I think if you're like, when you're really involved in something, you don't tend to use it unless you're really like, if you're noodle necking it and you're moving your head around a lot, then you're like, oh god, yeah, it's quite small. But I think if you're doing something that's mostly sit down, or you can kind of have a stable head, you don't notice it as much. But it is still, I will say, not the FOVs still could leave more to desire.
I think
but
it's
it
the
is good.
same as the original one. It's just brighter. Yeah.
They are same thing, like as every other glasses out there, looking for more developers to be able to create content for their ecosystem. But it seems like at least they do have a couple of pretty good ones coming up. But besides the AR stuff, I also wanted to try it for like, productivity and that sort of a thing. So I'm excited that I finally.
That's what I'm curious about.
Still...
I wanted to ask you that question real quick. How's the hand tracking? Because you mentioned hand tracking. Like, did you is it comparable to any headset at the moment, or?
It was pretty good. And I mean, we were by like a window, random convention center. Despite that, I mean, it did remind me a little bit of like Leap Motion 1 sort of maybe quality, but again, it was hard to say just because I was moving around, not in one space. There was a bright window, so I have to test it in more like controlled environments, I think, to really. But it worked. The most important thing was my hand wasn't flying off, and wherever I wanted the pointer was, as long as I kind of knew where the glasses was, which you do because it's on your face, it would sense it no problem. I actually had a harder time with the phone cursor because sometimes the beam on the phone would be sideways instead of in the front, so I'd have to hold the phone like this, but the cursor's going this way. So I was just like, can I just switch to hand tracking? Like that's easier, but it could have been just a bug in that particular software or whatever.
They seem to be just a couple of releases off of a real killer combination of hardware and software, to be honest. So because Meta smart glasses aren't going to do that. They don't have that additional
There's no
layer
display.
at the moment. There's no display, right? They're further along than I was expecting them to be already now. Now they're flipping a new device out every 9 months or something, so they're definitely turning over pretty quickly. But keen on your reactions now that you've got that home and you can kind of have a toy with it. So keep us informed there, Adam. Yeah.
I'll put it through the runner and try all sorts of different things with it to be able to give a better final review versus just chaotic convention setting, panic between meetings. Okay, and then finally the last one that was kind of teased a little bit by Rowdy, thank you, is Arcade Paradise.
You're welcome.
So this was another one that I really liked too. It was a flat game that was remade for VR, but not in the crappy way. Like, you can actually pick up things with your hands. But what I liked in particular about this one compared to another arcade simulator whose name escapes me, but it sounds very similar, is that there's actually a story behind this one. So you're basically working at a laundromat. You're changing laundry, cleaning toilets. Your dad's disappointed in you, wants you to do something with your life, and that's when you start to also build out an arcade inside this laundromat. Like, it starts off in a closet, but you can sort of expand it out from there. And each cabinet is also playable. So I found that in the demo I had, sometimes I would spend like 10 minutes playing one of the games in the game, and I'm like, oh no, I have to go back to doing real world stuff, because you actually do have to take care of the laundromat, clean the toilets. Like, so it was very weird. I was like, no, wait, let me take off. Let me go away from this game to get back in my game.
That's so bizarre.
That's cool.
Of course. So I did not know the story part, but that's actually like that's how most arcades started, as laundromats. Like the biggest like cashless. That's so weird. I don't think I would like to play that, but I want to now. Like,
I will say the doing the laundry part and the picking up trash and clean the toilets was surprisingly satisfying.
Yeah. No.
So it's more of a simulator game, like Celestica was mentioning.
I learned that lesson with Euro Truck Simulator, that mundane, boring ass shit is incredible fun in VR for some reason. For anyone who's played,
Farm Simulator.
I think most recently the Power Wash Simulator, for example.
So good.
Right? Like, so this combination of like making it, a simulation of like running that business instead of just trying to go head to head with arguably a better arcade experience would be like Pierhead Arcade. Pierhead Arcade on Quest is a very full fat, great arcade machines, like multiplayer experience, but they really went a different angle. I'm very glad about that, because I was worried when I saw this conceptually that they were going to make a half-baked clone. They went a different route. Really like that. So thank you for bringing that.
Very 90s nostalgic heavy too, which I can appreciate. Like, there's a lot like MTV. The beginning starts with like an MTV styled cutscene, and then there's a lot of 90s music in it. Like, it's, I don't know, it made me happy.
I need to play this.
Yes, and also the like, I'm on lack of sleep now, but the guy in The Witcher, the main character, he voices your dad. White-haired guy that everybody knows. Why can't I think of his name?
The Australian guy. I know you're talking about.
The Witcher, the guy. Yes, he voices the dad in the game, so he tells you to clean the toilets.
Oh wow, that's a big name.
That's
a fantasy of yours. You can.
So if I get this, so it's a game about you running a business that's pivoting to another business, but you have to make sure that the first business is running
alive enough to pay for your second one. Yeah.
Jose's found his game.
I need to play this. Oh,
you are playing it, but now you get to virtualize it as well. You've got it in real life and in the game. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's a pre-order on the Quest now, and it's available next month, so very soon. But I think if you pre-order it now, it has one of those like 10% discounts or something. So get it while it's on sale if you really want to play it. But it was good. enjoyed it. I have a key. I want to play more of it, more than just the demo, so I can actually build out my arcade and stuff. But I actually was like, okay, I want to go home now so I can do this proper. Thank you.
So cool.
Nice.
But
cool.
yeah, that's pretty much my highlights from GDC. A lot of interesting stuff that's coming forward. Very good.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, I definitely I have FOMO. I had FOMO before you went through your smorgasbord. Curious though, did you get a chance to play Eggscape? I think they were there because you missed it last year.
Well, I had played it before
Oh, you
at
played
like
it at
2-Bit
Vegas or
Circus
something.
in LA.
Oh, okay.
2-Bit Circus in Los Angeles. There's an arcade there, so I played it on the yeah, so I just there were a lot of stuff at the meta booth that I skipped because they had like Arizona Sunshine 2, Rainbows, like stuff that I already. But then I didn't see Laser
I
Dance.
know Laser Dance.
You know what?
That's
I
such
don't
a
know if
miss. Oh,
every other
Yeah.
booth had giant like art showcasing what people are playing in there, and I think
I know.
Laser Dance just had a tiny like queue line stand, so that's probably why I didn't notice it. And I was like, damn it! Had I known though, I would have definitely tried that. But
the first time I ran across Thomas at a convention, he had a tiny little cubism sign, like this little like lit up cubism. It was so cute. He was in the midst of a sea of like student devs, and I was like, I played the game and I was like, damn, this is fantastic. But Laser Dance, like if people don't realize, like this is why mixed reality matters. That kind of game. Like give me a button on two walls. I had to dance through lasers. When I say dance, like crawling on the floor and stuff to get to another button. I've had access to it. I played it last year, for example, but he's taking his, as usual, bittersweet time to play it out to make sure it's the best it possibly can be before it comes out. Always annoys the hell out of me because I'm like, I just want to play it.
Fair.
But
yeah,
I think that's going to be a great one once people get their hands on it. So, and works with furniture. Great coverage of GDC. Thanks so much, Adam. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great job.
Come next
With that,
year.
I fucking plan to. I'm staying in Canada this year's staying in Canada, next year conventions. So, time to switch over to Jose with releases. Now that that's all the main news out of the way.
Sorry, I stole them all from you. Baby.
Yeah, I was gonna say. All right. No, I got 3 good games here. All right. So first one is Happy Funland.
Oh, God.
Releases on March 22nd for PC VR, PSVR 2. Explore the abandoned remains and uncover the dark secrets of Mort Grizzly's Happy Funland theme park. Home of Randy Rodent, a darkly comedic VR horror experience where the fun never dies. So it's pretty much visiting a scary version of Disney. So yeah, no Mickey Mouse, but you get Randy Rodent.
Is this kind of
Randy
like
Rodent.
what's that game? Five Nights at Freddy's. All the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Then an amusement park for him.
Yeah. And apparently it's pretty funny. I saw some of the clips. It's probably a game that I would probably be able to. I don't wanna.
Okay,
No
well,
way.
Jose is gonna
No
play
way.
it.
No
Jose is
No
going
way.
to play
No
it.
way
Listen,
you're
I'm
playing
feeling
this.
confident today, guys. I feel like I can do more than I. But yeah,
I'll play it for you. I'll play it for you. Don't worry.
There we
Don't
go.
worry. I got a key. I'm good.
There we go. But March 22nd, PC VR, PSVR 2. It is about $22.49 US. That's about 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's Happy Funland. And up next, it technically already released, but to be transparent, I am obsessed with this game and I want to talk more about it. I might actually make a video. I don't normally do that stuff, but Max Mustard. Yes, that's you stole that one. But Max Mustard releases on March 21st. Already released rather. Quest PC VR coming soon. It is $22.99 at the Quest store. I don't know. That's about 20 pounds. Don't know PC VR pricing yet. But Max Mustard, the best way to describe it, it's Super Mario Sunshine specifically. Anyone who played that on the GameCube, but brought to VR. As a platform super fan, like Mario Sunshine is one of my favorite games of all time. I still play it like now whenever I'm bored. So kind of seeing the VR mechanics make their way and using the head motion to interact with the camera like Lucky's Tale. It's so good. It's definitely one of my favorite games.
Finishing that. Yeah, I got the opportunity to QA that game, so that was fun.
at GDC as well, next to the Flat to VR studio booth too. But I was like, I'll play you guys. I don't need to play here now.
Yeah. You don't want to play that as a demo. It's one of those games that like you get addicted to the mechanics and the controls. It's what Mario, but that's why those kind of games are very glued onto me. And yeah, so that's Max Mustard already released.
We still need Astrobot and PSVR 2. Come on,
Yes.
Sony. Put some money down.
Man, yes.
I don't know.
Man, now you're breaking my heart now.
No, it's not gonna happen though. I'm so sad. Okay,
so.
Go on.
But yeah, and next I have Black Trail VR. Black Trail VR is a VR shooter set in an epic war in the Old West. So it's an old-timey shooter. I love the art style. It reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you guys remember Revolver. I think that's what it's called. It's an older.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they, similar mechanics. They, more polished story mode. I believe that they mentioned on the notes. I think I have some notes here.
Is this the one that's like cowboys versus Indians? Kinda?
Yeah. So you play as a seasoned bounty hunter and a vengeful Native American warrior. So it's two characters, and you follow their interwoven stories, and essentially you play from both sides.
I remember.
The YouTube ad.
Yeah, I remember going into something like this. I think Rowdy, was it with you, Mike, and Nathy? We went into a cowboy-esque kind of saloon scene and never got to play that game. Do you remember it? It was some multiplayer game we tried. I think it was the first time we ever tried to do multiplayer together. But it looked very much like that, and half of my brain was saying, "Is this the same thing?" Years later.
Like it.
It does, and also the reason I picked this game, to be quite transparent with you guys, it has a cowboy hat mechanic, and I love the idea of getting into a shootout and then just grabbing my hat and putting it on, and I was like, okay, that's definitely a game I'm interested in. So yeah, that's Black Trail VR, no price yet, but yeah, I believe it's coming. I believe within the next two weeks. So.
Is it just a wave shooter, or is there like a story to it?
I think it's a wave shooter, but you play different perspectives depending on the character that you're at, so you get to see. I really don't know the details yet. I'm very excited about it, but I think that's what happens. It's like a synchronous storytelling where you play the wave from this side and you play from the other angle and see the story kind of woven through. Yeah. And last one I have. What's up?
No, I was just saying that kind of made me think like that'd be great if you had like a VR Last of the Mohicans, or I don't know, something from the Indian perspective, like Native American.
Yes.
I don't know. We don't have anything like that. I've seen it done for, like African culture, Inuit. I've just not seen it from that perspective yet. It's awesome. Probably very difficult to do given you're mostly in nature. So it's, high poly and difficult details with textures and stuff, which right now probably isn't perfect. But man, the second we get AI infused VR becoming a reality, that's one of the things I'll be, hey, for my holodeck, throw me in Native American times and, put me in the middle of a tribe. It'd be cool to see.
Heck yeah. But yeah, that was Black Trail VR. And up next, I have Sea Smash VRS, releasing April 4th on Pico and on Quest. For people that don't know, Sea Smash VRS is a VR love letter to the beloved Sega Dreamcast and arcade game. Is it also called Sea Smash in Dreamcast?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so yeah. So it is just I guess a faithful port of the Dreamcast version. It is there's a sport, I forgot what it's called, where you throw, like, you hit a paddle ball against a wall. It's a big Canadian sport. You might know what I'm talking about.
Or
what is it?
But just squash, or
I don't know the name of the sport.
Racquetball? No,
racquetball. There we go. Racquetball. So so a lot of racquetball mechanics. But it's such a beautiful looking game. I think I mentioned I forgot the name of the game, but it's like a Beat Saber clone. And I mentioned the white background aesthetics lab.
Beat to the Beat or whatever it was called.
No. And this reminds me of the same aesthetic. I love that, test lab, inviting, but also, it's pretty rad. But yeah, that's releasing on April 4th, also on Pico and on Quest. That's $19.99 US, about 18 pounds. And yeah, I believe it's also having a PC VR release, but it's not announced yet. So yeah, those are the games. So Happy Funland, Max Mustard, Black Trail VR, and Sea Smash VRS. And one honorable mention that I must make sure everybody plays: get the Angry Birds mixed reality update.
Oh yeah, I saw that come out, and I thought of it because you were just saying how
Gotta
much you love
play.
that game.
It is, I cried.
That's
It is
interesting.
so fun.
That's a cool take on it. Like mixed reality makes sense for Angry Birds. Like, so I'd
Yeah,
be
it
willing to
does.
give it a shot.
That's like there was a game I ran across. I was doing some racing to introduce Blair Renaud, who's developer behind Lo-Fi, upcoming game for PSVR 2 and Flat. But he introduced me to something that I didn't know was a Shell Games game and released in VR called Orion Trail. And it's like an FTL style game, but like with almost like a Star Trek series of people. And you don't really need to play it in VR, but I've just started playing it on Steam Deck. It had a VR mode, but it's from Shell Games. It's one of the Shell Games that like snuck under the radar. And the reason I'm making that comparison is Resolution Games has a few titles which you might be like, just didn't pay attention to. And Angry Birds is one of them. It's one of those that they took a big IP and worked on it, and it's a great game. So yeah, you're a rightful fan. Thank you very much for covering releases, Jose, and for everyone for staying with us for the last 2.5 hours. This is a proper FReality length podcast, but it's time to pat chat on the head and let them get to bed or off to whatever they want to do next. So this is a fortnightly podcast, FReality broadcast every other Saturday, both YouTube and Twitch. We go live at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in the UK. We've got an audio podcast as well over on SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes that airs a couple of days after the live broadcast. So with that, I won't skedaddle around. We'll get out of here. Say goodbye, team, and until the next FReality podcast. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.